I came across an injured Samiad and, egged on by my best friend, I took it home to nurse it back to health and kept it by my side. Gradually, I realized the Samiad was overly possessive. It wouldn't let me get close to anyone or any other animals besides itself. Even more terrifying, one day it suddenly transformed into a tall, muscular man. He started acting as my boyfriend, meddling in all my relationships and forbidding me from seeing anyone, including my parents and brother. I wanted to escape from him, but my best friend said I didn't know how lucky I was. How could I even think of leaving such a handsome man? Little did she know, the werewolf's possessiveness had reached a monstrous level. He kept me locked away in a remote villa, violating me night after night until I became pregnant. Unable to endure the humiliation any longer, I sneaked out to find my best friend while he was away. Little did I know, my best friend grew jealous of the werewolf's affection for me and betrayed my whereabouts to him. She even told him to his face that I fled because my family forbade our relationship. To my horror, the werewolf snapped. He slaughtered my parents and brother, then imprisoned and tortured me to death in his mansion. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day I first met that Samiad. Lila, the Samiad is injured. How pitiful. Let's take it home with us. Visions of my previous life, imprisoned, tortured, and left to die, still haunted me vividly. The image of my parents' and brother's dismembered limbs scattered across the living room flashed through my mind, sending a sharp pang through my chest, the pain still fresh and unmistakable. I glanced at my best friend Sylvia across from me, her face pleading with silent desperation. A cold glint flickered in my downcast eyes before I raised my gaze, my expression now perfectly composed, with a light laugh. I said, "Of course, Sylvia, you've always had the kindest heart. I'm sure you'd be delighted to adopt the puppy." Sylvia looked at me, unmistakable shock flashing through her eyes. I spotted Galen approaching behind her and quickly waved him over. "Galen, come quick. There's an injured Samiad here. Sylvia's kind-hearted and wants to adopt it." Sylvia's face flushed with alternating shades of anger, but she quickly composed herself as Galen drew near. I lowered my head with a faint, mocking smile. Sylvia has a crush on Galen, and I knew she wouldn't miss this chance to impress him. Sure enough, Galen asked with a smile, "Sylvia, would you like to adopt this Samiad?" One, who knew Sylvia wasn't just a diligent student, but also kind-hearted and beautiful. Hearing Galen's words, Sylvia flashed an innocent, sweet smile. "Monitor, I've adored animals since childhood and always dreamed of having a dog. What incredible luck to run into this Samiad today. It must be fate." She turned to me with a glance. "Lila, don't even think about competing with me for this." I thought to myself, compete, more like compete to see who dies first. In the end, that white wolf went home with Sylvia. Coming home that evening, seeing my parents and brother watching TV in the living room, my eyes welled up with tears that silently streamed down my cheeks. How wonderful Mom, Dad, and brother are all alive and well. Clenching my fists, I swore to myself that in this second chance at life, I would protect my family no matter what. Mom's amused voice finally broke the silence. "Silly child, why are you just standing at the door instead of coming in?" Snapping out of my daze, I quickly wiped the tears at the corners of my eyes and rushed toward my parents on the couch. "Mom, Dad, I've missed you so much." Patting my back, Mom chuckled. "Look at you, all grown up yet still acting like a child. Aren't you afraid people will laugh?" I blinked back tears. "No matter how old I get, I'll always be your baby. Can't I just hug you?" Dad patted my back with a smile. Of course, you'll always be our precious girl." I chuckled and walked over to my brother. My brother grinned and opened his arms. "All right, princess of the house, consider us your knights in shining armor." "Okay." My nose tingled and tears welled up again, making my brother yelp in panic. "Hey, no need to get so emotional over one sentence. I'm always good to you, but I never see you shed a single tear." Mom laughed and gave him a light slap. "What, you want your little sister crying in front of you every day?" Rubbing his head, my brother protested. "I never said that." "Mom, you messed up my hair." I laughed. So glad I got away from that brutal werewolf. I had no morning classes the next day. When I arrived at the classroom in the afternoon, my deskmate Tara told me, "Lila, did you hear? Sylvia got this adorable clingy Samiad, and she actually brought it to school today. That Samiad is absolutely massive. So many people are lining up to take photos with it. You wouldn't believe it." Sylvia posted that video of her playing with the Samiad online, and it's already been shared over 10,000 times. Her short video account just gained 200K plus new followers. I couldn't help but smirk. Well, good for her. That's fantastic news. Just then, Sylvia walked in carrying a stack of books. Covering her mouth with a giggle, she said, "Lila, I owe you one. If you hadn't turned Blanco down back then, I'd never have ended up with such an adorable pup." The other students' eyes immediately began darting between Sylvia and me. A nosy classmate piped up, "Wait, Sylvia, are you saying Lila gave you that Samiad?" Flustered, Sylvia backtracked. "Don't be ridiculous. Lila's family is loaded. Why would they bother with some common breed like a Samiad? Besides, the Samiad was injured. It's understandable that Lila didn't want to keep it, after all. Who'd want a wounded dog? The crowd's gazes shifted subtly toward me upon hearing this. Someone muttered, "What's the big deal about being rich? Someone as heartless as Lila is just a pretty poison, no matter how beautiful." I heard Sylvia's family is really struggling, 3 older sisters and a younger brother, yet she still took in such a big Samiad, truly beautiful inside and out. What an inspiring beauty. I'm a girl myself and this almost moved me to tears, too. Classmate Sylvia is truly kind-hearted. Even a grown man like me was nearly brought to tears. I've decided, from now on Sylvia is the one I'm pursuing. As for Lila, forget it. Just a spoiled rich girl with a pretty face but zero substance. Tara, standing nearby, got so angry she jumped up to argue with them until I pulled her back. Tara, ignore the gossip. I couldn't care less, remembering my past life. I feel truly blessed now, yet my concessions only seem to embolden certain people. The next morning at school, I was met with nothing but scornful glares. As I walked down the tree-lined path on campus, 2 boys deliberately splashed milk on me. When I shot them an icy glare, they shrugged carelessly. "Oops, our bad. Just wanted to see if the school's mean queen bee actually has a black heart." Clenching my fists, I advanced toward them step by step. The boys backed away with false bravado. "Whoa, Lila, what's your problem? We already apologized. What more do you want?" With a cold sneer, I swung my fists at both of them. Arg. The 2 boys instantly howled in pain. Spotting several teacher-looking figures approaching, I quickly stepped forward to support the 2 boys. Her eyes welled up with tears as she stammered, "I'm so sorry. Really, it was an accident. Just a little bump. Was hitting me really necessary?" Sobs, "I truly apologize." Her voice, just loud enough, reached the ears of several nearby teachers. A female teacher snapped, "What's going on here? Grown men attacking a girl over a minor collision. Have you no shame?" The 2 boys clutched their bruised eyes. "Teacher, she did it on purpose. And, come on, it's no big deal. Stop being such a drama queen. You're grown men, for heaven's sake." The girl already apologized. What more do you want? The 2 boys whimpered pitifully. "Teacher, all right, enough. Go put some ice on it. You boys need to hit the gym instead of rotting in internet cafes all day." Pathetic. 2 grown men getting knocked over by a tiny girl. I smiled and thanked the teachers. When I returned to the classroom, everyone was huddled together discussing something. As I walked in, they all shot me contemptuous looks. Tara tugged at my sleeve. "Lila, check out Sylvia's short video account." I opened my phone with confusion, only to see footage of Sylvia playing with that white wolf. The comments section was flooded with nothing but praise and envy. Wow, the chemistry between the beauty and her dog is so heartwarming and therapeutic. Kind-hearted beauties are the most charming. Totally crushing on her. Love this girl and her pup so much. Could you post more videos with your dog? I'll be the first to watch. She looks like a college student. Wonder which school. Would love to meet this beauty in person. Hey man, just FYI, that girl's name is Sylvia. She's a junior majoring in biology at Guanghui University. Thanks bro. 3. The other clip showed my classroom conversation with Sylvia that day. The comment section below the video was flooded with hateful remarks and hostility toward me. Lila is as ugly on the inside as she is on the outside. These so-called rich kids and officials' children are all out of touch. Cold-hearted people who know nothing about real hardship. Their manners are downright crude, unlike our dear Sylvia, poor but noble in character. Exactly, plus she's the class beauty and absolutely gorgeous. Don't hit me for saying this, but while Lila may be vicious and heartless, she is objectively beautiful and seems to be a top student too. If you can't speak properly, then shut your filthy mouth. What's the point of being good-looking with such a rotten soul? To whoever's praising Lila upstairs, I strongly suspect you're a paid shill she hired. Exactly, Lila's simps can get the hell out of here. Heard Lila's supposedly Sylvia's bestie. Sweetie Sylvia, if that's your best friend, run for your life. What kind of best friend is that? Sylvia's family is clearly struggling, yet Lila never lifts a finger to help. Talk about a fake friendship. Fake friends confirmed. Need I say more? Thousands of comments, all hurling abuse at me. I scoffed coldly, glaring at the woman ahead who was acting like nothing had happened. Bestie, that backstabbing best friend who'd throw you under the bus, you can keep her. I met Sylvia during our senior year of high school. A transfer student suddenly joined our class in the first semester of senior year. The new transfer student was none other than Sylvia. Coming from a poor family, Sylvia was introverted and insecure. As the weakest student academically, she struggled to keep up with lessons after suddenly joining our class. Her quiet nature made her an easy target for most classmates' bullying. That's human nature, people always pick on those they perceive as weaker. Back then, I was outspoken and chivalrous by nature, and couldn't stand seeing them bully a newcomer. So one afternoon, when Sylvia got cornered in the restroom by those mean girls again, I stepped in and gave them a piece of my mind. I made it clear Sylvia was under my protection now. Anyone messing with her would have to deal with me. After that, everyone knew Sylvia was with me, and nobody dared to bully her anymore. Sylvia and I became inseparable best friends who shared everything. Knowing her family was struggling, I covered almost all her school expenses, including daily necessities like food and clothing. Exactly, after all, That amount of money meant nothing to me. My parents were aware of her hardships and often showed their sympathy by buying her gifts and clothes, yet I never imagined my kindness towards Sylvia would turn into a case of the farmer and the viper. Remembering the tragic deaths of my parents and brother in my past life, I stared at Sylvia's retreating figure, a cold smirk twisting my lips unbidden. I'd foolishly believed those vicious online comments would fade away if I just ignored them long enough, this time around. I've cut Sylvia out as my confidant, knowing werewolves like I do. Sylvia's doomed without me lifting a finger, so I just need to cherish the time with my parents and brother, and focus on preparing for graduation. It wasn't until 5 days later, when the principal called me into his office, that I realized my leniency had failed to keep Sylvia in line. Even in death, she's practically begging me to give her a final push. Don't blame me for what comes next. Principal's office, Lila. Have you seen those videos circulating online recently? I raised my eyebrows slightly, playing dumb. Principal, which videos are you referring to? I'm not quite sure what you mean. The one Sylvia posted online. Seems like public opinion about you isn't exactly favorable right now, for I intended to stay out of this, but with the viral spread and you being our student, this incident is causing irreparable damage to our school's reputation. I raised an eyebrow. Principal. Don't you think you've got the wrong person? The video was posted by Sylvia from her own account. If you want this resolved, make Sylvia take it down and issue a public apology. Why are you coming after me instead? The principal cleared his throat awkwardly. Ahem. Well, I've spoken with Sylvia. She agreed to take down the original video, but there's nothing she can do about the reposts circulating online. I chuckled lightly. Oh, is that so? She's got 500,000 followers now. Just have her post an apology video. Problem solved. The principal froze, clearly taken aback by my suggestion. An apology? She posted the video. She started this mess. If she doesn't apologize, should I be the one to say sorry? But all those nasty comments were directed at you. I smirked bitterly. So they're trying to use me as cannon fodder. Do you really think I'm some pushover, Lila? Principal, how can you be sure Sylvia's video shows the whole truth? The dean immediately interjected. Miss Sylvia, are you suggesting there's more to this story? I turned to the dean. Let's have Sylvia come here so we can settle this face to face. Before long, Sylvia was brought in by the homeroom teacher, with my childhood friend Galen trailing behind her. When she saw me, her gaze instinctively darted away, avoiding eye contact. I couldn't help sneering inwardly. A rat will always be a rat, forever scheming behind people's backs. Miss Sylvia, Miss Lila claims the video you posted is misleading. Would you care to explain what's really going on? Sylvia looked at me, her eyes suddenly welling up with tears. Principal, I don't know why Lila would do this. Many classmates heard our conversation that day. They can vouch for me. So I don't understand what she means by not telling the truth, if you don't believe me. Principal, you can ask the students who were there. I looked at Sylvia across from me, for the 100th time wondering how blind I'd been in my past life. How could I ever have mistaken this scheming, two-faced rat for some innocent angel? Principal, when we found that Samiad, Sylvia volunteered to take care of it herself. I never once said I disliked the dog. Yes, my family is wealthy, but that doesn't give anyone the right to emotionally blackmail us. As I spoke, I turned my gaze toward the principal standing nearby. Principal, who said my family's wealth obligates us to help every stray cat and dog. Even humans can be ungrateful, let alone animals. As I finished speaking, I glanced at Sylvia across from me. Her face had turned beet red. I almost laughed. I'd hit a nerve. She was livid with humiliation. The principal forced a dry chuckle. That's technically correct. Yet Sylvia wasn't willing to let it go. She continued, Lila, honestly, there's nothing wrong with admitting you don't like animals. None of us would hold it against you. What I said that day was the truth. The whole class heard it. Fine. Since you keep insisting everyone heard it, let's go confront them together. Principal, many online commenters are our schoolmates. In that case, why not gather the whole school and give everyone an explanation? If I were truly that kind of person, I'd apologize immediately before the entire school and national audience. The real question is, does Sylvia dare to face this confrontation? Sylvia's expression faltered slightly, and Galen quickly shot her a reassuring glance. Sylvia hesitated, looking at me with unspoken words. Lila, for old time's sake, I didn't want to escalate this and tarnish your reputation, but you left me no choice by pushing me to this point. What a classic display of manipulative innocence. The principal and homeroom teacher spoke simultaneously. Lila, you heard Sylvia doesn't want to escalate this. She's concerned about your reputation. Why don't you just record an apology video instead of making a public apology before the whole school? After all, you're graduating soon. And, principal, teacher, no need. With a good friend like Sylvia fanning the flames, my reputation with classmates and netizens is already ruined. What's one more stain? I deliberately emphasized good friend with biting sarcasm. thoroughly enjoying how Sylvia's face cycled between ashen and flushed. Hearing this, the principal and several administrators had no choice but to accept my proposal. They agreed to gather all faculty and students that very afternoon. I was secretly delighted, though I maintained a solemn facade. It was still morning, with 2 hours remaining until the afternoon assembly. In the school cafeteria, Lila, are you really going to confront Sylvia in front of the entire school? I nodded. Yeah. Tara was practically jumping out of her skin with anxiety. Lila, Sylvia's popularity isn't just skyrocketing online, it's even worse at our school, especially among the guys. If you do it this way, I'm afraid it might backfire. Among our classmates, there are quite a few popular influencers. I'm worried. I know what Tara means, but that's exactly the effect I'm going for. It would be perfect if all the famous influencers could make it to the event. I patted my deskmate's shoulder to reassure her. Just then, an ill-timed noise erupted right in front of me. Lila, are you really going through with this? You just throw away our 4 years together like it's nothing. I looked up to see Sylvia standing before me with a tray of food, Galen by her side. It's true what they say, people really do laugh when they're furious. How can someone possibly have so little shame? But before I could speak, Tara beside me had already seen enough. Sylvia, you're disgusting. You're the one who leaked the video, you let netizens attack Lila, and you stirred up misunderstandings among classmates with your fake innocent act. How dare you say such things? Lila treated you like her best friend, shared all the good food, nice things, even took you on trips, and what did you do in return? This is how you stab her in the back, inciting strangers to slander her. Tara gave Sylvia a once-over with her eyes. That outfit you're wearing still belongs to Lila. How dare you show your face around her? Sylvia, oh Sylvia, I've seen shameless people before, but you take the cake. I was stunned. I knew Tara had a sharp tongue, but this was just the tip of the iceberg. Tara's savage comeback was so satisfying. Seeing Sylvia speechless with rage made it even sweeter. I flashed Tara a thumbs up with a chuckle, then drawled, you missed one thing. Tara, those shoes she's wearing are mine too. Sylvia shouted with teary eyes, Lila, I know I come from a poor family. I've accepted your hand-me-downs before without complaint because that's what best friends do, we share everything. But I really didn't mean it this time. I have no idea why netizens interpreted it that way. There was absolutely no ill intent. Galen, who'd been watching nearby, finally spoke up. Lila, Sylvia already explained she didn't do it on purpose. Netizens took her words out of context, and frankly, what she said was true. Everyone knows she comes from a poor family, but we've all seen how hard she works. How could you let Tara humiliate her like this? I misjudged you, Lila. Clenching my fists to resist the urge to slap someone, I turned to look at Galen standing nearby, my childhood friend who'd grown up with me all these years. The thought sent a chill through my heart. That's right, Galen's father and mine were best friends. We'd been inseparable since childhood. Practically raised together, and the only reason Sylvia even got to hang out with Galen was through me. In our past life, my matchmaking played no small part in bringing him and Sylvia together, but everything changed when Sylvia accidentally discovered the Samiad I'd rescued was actually a werewolf, and a ridiculously handsome one at that. She started giving Galen the cold shoulder. Instead, she began showering Vance with attention. Vance was the werewolf from our previous life. Terrified by Vance's bloodthirsty brutality, I couldn't bring myself to warn Sylvia about him. All I could do was desperately keep them apart, but Sylvia misinterpreted my actions as petty jealousy, accusing me of keeping her from meeting the handsome Vance. We had a huge fight over it. Later, Vance imprisoned me in his villa, subjecting me to nightly assaults. When I discovered my pregnancy, I orchestrated an escape against all odds. The moment I got out, I rushed home to find my parents. To my horror, I found their dismembered remains scattered across the floor. That's when I realized Vance had murdered them. Trusting Sylvia, I went to her place seeking temporary shelter, biding my time to avenge my parents and brother. When Sylvia found out about my situation, she scolded me for not appreciating my good fortune. How could I even think of running away when someone as gorgeous as Vance was head over heels for me? By then, she was already engaged to Galen. She even joked that if she'd known the Samiad would grow into such a hunk, she'd never have let me adopt him in the first place. Keeping him as a husband would have been way better, don't you think? That was the first time I ever lost my temper with her. I was furious she didn't grasp the gravity of the situation, and even angrier that she took Galen's love for granted. Never satisfied with what she had, always craving more, we ended up in a heated argument over it, and I stormed out of her place. Back then, I trusted her completely, but my fear of Vance finding me kept me from reading too much into her words. It wasn't until Vance tracked me down and locked me back in the villa that I learned from him Sylvia had been the one who revealed my whereabouts. Looking back now, Sylvia must have known exactly what I was going through at the time, but that envy she kept talking about, how much of it was genuine? If she was so jealous of me being with a hottie like Vance, why would she rat me out to him? If I leave Vance, wouldn't that just give her more opportunities to get close to him? That's exactly what I can't figure out, Galen. I've got no problem with you liking her. That's your business. But you must know the truth better than I do, don't you? How can you accuse me now? Doesn't your conscience bother you at all, as a friend, and out of respect for your uncle, let me give you some well-meaning advice. Don't believe everything you see. People's hearts change easily, especially when they're already rotten to the core. You'd better watch your step. Maybe it was just my imagination, but I thought I saw a flicker of pain and guilt in Galen's eyes after my words. That's insane. There's no way Galen would ever show that kind of expression. I joined Tara in humiliating his goddess. He should hate me for that. My eyes must be playing tricks on me. With that thought, I turned to Sylvia beside me and leaned close to her ear. Since you want to play, I'll play along. Nothing satisfies me more than watching villains dig their own graves. With that, I stopped acknowledging the two pairs of eyes burning into my back, so I missed the gaze full of remorse and tenderness that followed me until my figure vanished beyond the doorway. Sylvia averted her eyes just in time to catch Galen staring blankly at where Lila had disappeared, a shadow of malice flickering in his gaze. What's wrong? Having second thoughts? If it pains you so much, why don't you go find her? Galen snapped out of his thoughts, a glimmer flashing in his downcast eyes before curling into a smile. How could I? Don't you know it's you I love? Back then I didn't know how you felt, and I didn't dare confess. That's why I kept using Lila as an excuse to see you. Now that I know you return my feelings, I'm overjoyed. Why would I still go to her? Oh, didn't you say Blanco was out of food? I've already sent someone to personally pick the finest sheep and cattle from the farm. They'll be delivered tonight. Hearing this, the woman finally cracked a smile. That's more like it. You're forgiven, as long as you're happy. Lila pissed me off earlier and the food's gone cold. Wait here, I'll get you a fresh meal. With that, he turned on his heel and left. The moment he turned away, his smile vanished, leaving only icy detachment. Afternoon, school playground. A large crowd of faculty and students had already gathered. 6. The crowd buzzed with restless energy. Everyone had seen the viral video causing an uproar online. Lila from the School of Biology was accused of animal cruelty for ignoring an injured Samiad, with critics saying she's unfit to study life sciences. The internet is flooded with condemnations against her. The school's reputation has been dragged down as well. It seems they were summoned today precisely for this matter. Moments later, the university president, the dean of the School of Biological Sciences, and several other administrators arrived together. Tara and I ran into Sylvia at the entrance. She was followed by Galen, my childhood sweetheart. How ironic. The two people I once trusted with my whole heart are now conspiring to destroy me. Galen hesitated when he saw me, as if holding something back. Lila, I shot him a cold glare. Take good care of your precious. Wouldn't want you to die without knowing why. With that, I strode away without a backward glance at the pair behind me. After the principal's pompous opening remarks on stage, he turned the spotlight to me. Now let's hear from the two parties involved about what really happened in those videos. Scanning the audience of teachers and students, I spotted several influencer bloggers in the crowd. A smirk played at the corners of my mouth. I believe everyone has seen the video posted by our classmate Sylvia. That Samiad in the video was actually found by Sylvia and me together. And it was indeed Sylvia who suggested adopting the Samiad. The room immediately erupted in commotion. See, even Lila admitted it was Sylvia who suggested adopting the Samiad. Told you Sylvia's got both beauty and a kind heart. Absolutely smitten, gorgeous and hardworking, total package. This is exactly why I stan a queen who owns her power. Listening to the crowd fawning over Sylvia, I couldn't help but smirk. Then I added, but Sylvia never intended to take care of it herself. She just wanted to find some poor sap to foot the bill. Yes, someone asked, Lila, when you say Sylvia wanted to find a sucker, were you referring to yourself? I chuckled lightly. Now why would you ask that, dear classmate? Oh, because I heard you and Sylvia were besties since high school, and you've been covering practically all her school expenses. The crowd instantly erupted in murmurs. Seriously, no way, all her expenses. That's no small sum we're talking about. Wait, wasn't Sylvia supposed to come from a poor family? Her outfits look pretty expensive to me, I casually replied. Oh, that's because I gave her all those clothes. Wow, so Lila's really that generous with her bestie. I'm so jealous of their friendship. Seriously, if I had a friend like that, I'd be smiling in my sleep. I'll take a dozen friends like her. Sylvia beside her had completely lost her earlier composure. Seeing the situation spiraling out of control, she hastily added, Principal, regarding the video incident, I apologize to Lila and everyone. I shouldn't have posted it on my account. As for whether Lila likes pets, I genuinely don't know. After all these years of friendship, I've never seen her keep any animals. All eyes were on her again. Yeah, weren't we supposed to discuss the authenticity of the video? Why are we going off on a tangent? Lila, stop changing the subject. It's undeniable that Sylvia cares deeply about animals. Lila's clearly trying to divert attention by changing the topic. That must be it. I glanced at Sylvia beside me, catching the triumphant smirk playing on her lips. Sylvia, are you sure your video didn't distort the truth? With red-rimmed eyes, Sylvia said, Lila, I know you've looked up for me all these years, but I bought you gifts too. I bring you meals every day, buy you drinks. Do none of these things mean anything to you? I apologize about the video, but you were the one who voluntarily gave up adopting that Samoyed. These are all facts. And even the class monitor knows it. Hearing this, a nosy classmate immediately turned to ask Galen nearby, Galen, is what Sylvia said true? Galen looked at me with an unreadable expression. I stared intently at Galen, still holding on to a sliver of hope for him, yet when Galen nodded and uttered that single yeah, an involunary pang of pain shot through my heart. Galen knew perfectly well that Sylvia had adopted that Samoyed out of sheer vanity when she found it. And now he's actually helping Sylvia frame me. My face paled, eyes brimming with disappointment toward Galen, yet I missed the fleeting glimpse of anguish and reluctance in Galen's eyes. Sylvia, you're so convinced I lack evidence that you keep framing me and testing my patience. Lila, well today, I'll show you exactly what happens to those who cross me. With that, I winked at Tara, who responded with an okay hand gesture. Moments later, the playground speakers broadcast Sylvia's smug, two-faced remarks. Monitor, I've loved animals since childhood and always wanted a dog. What a coincidence running into this Samoyed today. It must be fate. Lila, don't you dare try to take this from me. The recording was crystal clear. Everyone instantly recognized Sylvia's voice. The audience erupted in uproar. The crowd's gazes towards Sylvia were now filled with contempt and disdain. My God, so this is the truth. Who would have thought Sylvia was such a pathological liar? Who knew? Sylvia looks so fragile and delicate, yet she's actually so calculating. Appearances can be deceiving. Wait, doesn't anyone think Lila is actually the real victim here? I poured my heart out to my best friend, only to end up being framed and subjected to online abuse. Right. Lila is clearly the real victim here. Exactly. This is a classic case of the farmer and the viper. After this, I'll never again dream of finding a confidant who shares everything with me. I've been burned by so-called best friends before. I've always stood by Lila. Thank goodness our queen was prepared, or those clueless netizens would still be falling for Sylvia's lies. Exactly. Thank heavens our Lila is so quick-witted. Obviously, with her family background, you'd expect nothing less than perfect breeding. Listening to the crowd's chatter, I just smiled. This is the terrifying power of public opinion. I sneered coldly. It can build someone up in an instant and tear them down just as quickly. Across from them, Sylvia had turned deathly pale, tearfully apologizing to the principal over and over. The principal's face was filled with disappointment. Sylvia, I always believed that coming from humble beginnings, you'd have integrity, but now I see what a disappointment you've turned out to be. I stared coldly at the tearful Sylvia, feeling nothing but eerie calmness inside. Strangely enough, Galen didn't utter a single word about what I'd just done. Several popular influencers posted about Sylvia's scandal online. The video hit 100 million views in just 2 days. Sylvia went from being everyone's darling to a lying, ungrateful backstabber. Then I contacted those influencers and sent them all the receipts of my financial support for Sylvia over the years. With their instigation, Sylvia's account was instantly flooded with hate. Within days, she became the target of online outrage. Radical netizens even vandalized her home with paint, forcing her parents to kick her out to escape the harassment. Her parents, deeply traditional, had kept having daughters solely to produce a male heir, so they treated Sylvia terribly. In my past life, she would have dropped out if not for me, never graduated, let alone gotten engaged to someone as remarkable as Galen. But human hearts are always greedy and fickle. In my last moments of that life, Vance finally confessed it was Sylvia's words that made the difference. Otherwise he wouldn't have even considered killing my parents and brother. Right now, watching the online mob attacking Sylvia, all I could muster was a bitter laugh. A week later, the school succumbed to public pressure and sent Sylvia home for temporary leave. Tara told me Galen took Sylvia in, found an apartment for Sylvia outside, recalling the bloodthirsty brutality and possessiveness of werewolves in the past life. My conscience got the better of me, so I decided to talk with Galen that day. I called Galen and arranged to meet at a cafe. I expected Galen to refuse, given how inseparable he's been with Sylvia lately. To my surprise, he agreed without hesitation. When I arrived, Galen was already there. On the table before me sat my usual mocha order, accompanied by 2 pieces of my favorite dessert. I stood there momentarily stunned. For a moment, it felt like I was back in the past. 7. Galen was just like that back then. He'd take care of every little detail when it came to me. He knew all my tastes and preferences, every single thing I liked. Sometimes it even gave me the illusion that he secretly had a crush on me, but he never confessed his feelings to me. In my past life, I still held some hope for him, but before I could hear his confession, Vance imprisoned me. I suppose he and Sylvia must have ended up quite happy together. Galen's voice snapped me back to reality. What are you spacing out for? Come sit down. Oh. Watching the man across from me deftly arranging my tableware, I felt a tumult of emotions. Galen, he raised his hand to cut me off. Try their mocha first, see how it tastes. The barista here just returned from studying abroad. And I hear his brews are quite popular. Taking his suggestion, I lifted the cup and took a sip. It was genuinely better than any coffee I'd had before. Galen, I need to talk to you. He tilted his chin at me. Try their desserts too. I hear they're excellent. His casual, unhurried demeanor suddenly made my blood boil. My expression turned icy. Galen, don't pull that Sylvia routine on me. I came to talk business. And I'm leaving right after. The man across from me clicked his tongue. Completely unfazed by my words, still as fiery as ever, like a firecracker waiting for a spark, I swallowed my anger, though a hint of defiance remained. None of your business, just focus on your precious Sylvia. Galen didn't argue back, he just stared at me with an unreadable look. Go ahead, what did you call to talk about? I knew it, Sylvia truly holds a special place in his heart. I took a deep breath and looked at the man across from me. What if I asked you to leave Sylvia and stay away from her? Would you agree? Galen's eyes lit up briefly before dimming again. Lila, I'm sorry. I cut him off. Galen, do you really like her that much? Galen remained silent, his head hanging low. I let out a bitter laugh. Fine, you're on your own. You can like Sylvia all you want, but stay away from her, Samyad. Galen jerked his head up, a flicker of panic in his eyes. Why would you say that? I said calmly. That Samyad seems rather possessive, given we both studied zoology. I'm sure you understand, you and Sylvia should keep your distance in front of that Samyad. With that, I left $300 on the table and walked out without waiting for Galen's response. 2 weeks later, Sylvia, who'd only taken a few days off, suddenly filed for a leave of absence from school. 2 months later, I was picking out a birthday gift for my brother at the downtown mall. I'd found a watch with both great style and reasonable price, just about to pay when a familiar voice caught my ear. Waitress, I'll take that watch she's holding, wrap it up for me. Looking up, I saw Sylvia decked out in designer clothes, arm in arm with a tall, burly man entering through the door. At that moment, I instinctively took 2 steps back, my hand holding the watch trembling slightly. Visions of being imprisoned and tormented in my past life flashed through my mind. A cold sweat trickled down my spine, soaking through my clothes in moments. The watch slipped from my hand and clattered to the floor. Drawing a startled gasp from the shop assistant, I quickly crouched down to pick up the watch, forcing myself to stay calm. By the time I stood up, I'd regained my usual composure. I'm sorry. I'll pay the full price to replace it. Sylvia covered her mouth with an exaggerated expression. Oh my, Lila. Is that really you? I didn't even recognize you. Running into me here must be quite a surprise, isn't it? I bet you're disappointed to see I haven't been miserable without you. Staring at the woman before me, I was suddenly overwhelmed with disgust. I smirked disdainfully. What does your well-being have to do with me? Sylvia clearly hadn't expected such nonchalance from me, her face twisted into an ugly grimace. I caught a glimpse of Vance nearby, his eyes flashing with brutality and displeasure. Clearly, Sylvia initiating conversation with me had already put him in a foul mood. A cold laugh rose in my heart. Oh Sylvia, if you knew your place, you might just live longer, but clearly, that's not what you want. Sylvia composed herself and plastered on a fake smile. She pulled Vance over and said, Lila, this is Vance, my boyfriend. Handsome, isn't he? She covered her mouth with a giggle. Oops, look at me forgetting to tell you. If it weren't for you, I'd never have met a hottie like Vance. Oh. I bet you're dying to know where I'm living now, aren't you? I said coldly. Not in the slightest. You're of zero interest to me. I noticed the predatory glint in Vance's eyes had completely vanished when he looked at me, yet Sylvia clearly wasn't about to let me off the hook. Then she added, didn't Galen tell you? I'm currently staying at his place. That Galen. I kept refusing, but he just wouldn't take no for an answer. Had no choice but to reluctantly accept his hospitality. Honestly, I don't like him at all. It's Vance I'm into, but he just won't stop pestering me. I saw Vance's eyes turn eerie the moment he heard Sylvia's words. I knew that look, it was his telltale sign of rage. A chill ran down my spine, and I couldn't help worrying for Galen. By saying this in front of Vance, Sylvia was essentially throwing Galen to the wolves. The memory of my parents' and brother's tragic deaths in my past life made me turn deathly pale. No. I can't just stand by and watch Galen die like that. Seeing my ashen face, Sylvia assumed her words had shaken me. She covered her mouth, grinning smugly. So what if you're a rich girl, Lila? Nobody actually likes you. Who cares if I'm Cinderella? All those men are crazy about me. I burst out laughing at that, putting on a slightly dejected expression. That's right, Sylvia, you've been the popular one since high school. All the boys in class had a crush on you. Meanwhile, here I am, the rich girl nobody actually likes. But what I can't understand is, you were the one who told me you liked Galen. How could you change your heart so easily? Mr. Van here clearly has class and brains. Why on earth would he settle for living in Galen's place? Sylvia's face turned pale, then flushed with anger at my words. Lila, don't talk nonsense. When did I ever say I liked Galen? Oh really, never. As I spoke, I played a recording. This recording was made back when Sylvia and I were best friends. I originally just wanted to save it to tease her with someday, never thought it'd actually come in handy now. The recording captures Sylvia confessing she likes Galen, and she even mentioned her parents approve of him. Sylvia turned pale as a ghost, ignoring her livid expression. I continued, "Oh, I forgot to ask, how's your Samoyed doing lately? Heard your parents never approved of you keeping that Samoyed. Did they really kick both you and the dog out? Poor Samoyed, what did it ever do to deserve such treatment? Let's face it, if Galen hadn't taken you in, you and your Samoyed would have been homeless. I always said Galen has a heart of gold, but listen Sylvia, now that you've got Mr. Van in your life, stop stringing Galen along, for heaven's sake, after all he's done for you and that Samoyed, just let him go." Lila, what kind of nonsense are you spouting? Since when have I been stringing Galen along? Besides, I've told you already, Mr. Van doesn't strike me as the type to settle for second best. He must have his own grand villa. It's clear he adores you. As we humans say, if you love someone, you should keep them by your side at all times. I suppose Mr. Van shares that sentiment, doesn't he? After speaking, I finally gathered the courage to meet those terrifying eyes. The man remained silent, but seemed thoroughly pleased with my suggestion. A glint of excitement shimmered in his amber eyes. Ignoring Sylvia's contorted expression, I nodded at the man. "Mr. Van, I won't intrude further. Please enjoy your time with Miss Sylvia." The man remained silent, offering only an icy nod. As I turned away, the smile vanished from my lips, replaced by a faint sneer. "Well, Sylvia, since you're so eager to die, let the storm rage even fiercer." After that day, I rarely heard anything about Sylvia again, though I did overhear Dad mentioning Galen got his heart broken. Rumor has it the girl he liked dumped him for some ridiculously handsome guy. Galen's been shutting himself indoors all day, never stepping foot outside. At least I don't have to watch Galen get torn apart by Vance anymore, but thinking about how Sylvia's got Galen all depressed leaves a bitter taste in my mouth. That bastard Galen better not stay down for good. Well, when you think about it, I was somewhat responsible for indirectly breaking him and Sylvia up. Maybe I should go check on him. I scoured every corner of Joshua and finally tracked down 2 out-of-print game discs to give to Galen. Gaming is his biggest passion outside of studying. I hope these discs will help lift his spirits a bit. 8. Galen's father and mine were close friends, so we used to play together all the time. Both our families knew each other very well. Butler Lou's eyes lit up with delight when he saw me. "Miss Lila, are you here to see the yen master?" I nodded awkwardly. "Well, Uncle Lou, I heard your yen master got his heart broken. Came to check on him." Uncle Lou looked utterly confused. "Heartbroken? Has yen master been rejected by Miss Lila? But if Miss Lila did reject him, why would she rub salt in his wounds?" Old Lou couldn't help but feel sorry for his yen master. On second thought, the yen master hasn't shown any signs of heartbreak these past few days. Uncle Lou, I heard your yen master hasn't left the house for days. Has he lost weight? Miss Lila, the yen master, he's doing fine. If throwing parties, blasting music, and dancing count as fine, then yes, the yen master is absolutely thriving. My heart sank at the sight. Oh no, is Galen really down for the count? With that thought, I rushed toward the villa. Galen, don't do anything drastic. A breakup is nothing compared to losing your life. It's really not worth it. Besides, you're handsome, charming, talented, and accomplished. You'll definitely find someone better. With that, I dashed upstairs and knocked on Galen's door, but after knocking for what felt like ages, there wasn't a single sound from inside. My heart sank as panic set in. "Galen, don't do anything stupid. A woman like Sylvia isn't worth losing your head over." I banged on the door loudly while turning to Uncle Lou. "How could you leave him alone in his room when he's heartbroken? That's downright reckless. Are there any sharp objects inside? Are the windows and doors properly ventilated?" Miss Lila, the yen master isn't in his room." His knocking hand froze awkwardly midair. I stared at Uncle Lou, wishing the ground would swallow me whole. "Where's Galen then?" Uncle Lou pointed upstairs. "The yen master is dancing in the 4th floor studio." "Ha, the dance studio, the 4th floor. That's even higher. A fall from there would be disastrous. You'd be lucky to survive that fall in one piece." I rushed upstairs in a panic. "Galen, don't you dare jump." But when I saw the DJ music blasting in the dance studio with figures going wild, I froze instantly. So Uncle Lou's jump and what I understood as jump turned out to be completely different things. Galen turned around and spotted me standing at the doorway. I saw a flicker of joy in his eyes as they gradually reddened. "You're here." I nodded. "Yes, I've come. So, you've been reborn too?" In Galen's bedroom, I asked the man standing before me. His gaze hadn't left me since I appeared. Hearing my words, he nodded. My heart skipped a beat as I finally voiced the question that had been stuck in my throat. "How did you die?" 10. He stiffened, and after a long pause murmured, "Lila, it's all in the past," but I wouldn't let him evade the question. "Galen, tell me, how did you die? I want the truth." Seeing my insistence, he could only sigh softly. "I searched for you endlessly. Yet no matter how hard I tried, it was as if he'd vanished. As a last resort, I had no choice but to call the police. Every officer in Chuanjia City was mobilized, yet they still couldn't track you down. Left with no options, I had to turn to Sylvia for help. In my past life, I remember Galen was already engaged to Sylvia when I died. He begged Sylvia, his fiancée, to reveal my whereabouts. Do you really think she'd give him that information so easily, knowing Sylvia the way I do? She'd never let Galen off the hook. What did you promise her? Galen's gaze flickered away from me for just a heartbeat. In the end, I just closed my eyes. She demanded I transfer half my shares to her. What other conditions did she ask for? I stared straight into Galen's eyes, refusing to let him look away. She said she'd marry me, but insisted on staying with Vance during our marriage. I wasn't to interfere with her personal life. I covered my mouth, utterly stunned. You agreed to that? Galen paused. Yeah, Galen, are you out of your mind? How could you agree to such an outrageous demand? Do you love her that much? No, I don't love her. Then why did you get engaged to her? Galen was puzzled but still replied, because that was one of her conditions for telling me your whereabouts. My eyes widened in shock. So Galen's engagement to her had nothing to do with actually loving Sylvia. But why couldn't Galen find me? Did Sylvia not tell him, or did Vance find out? He said he's dead, so how did he die then? These questions kept piling up, tangling my thoughts into knots. Staring at Galen before me, I'd never imagined he could die. I always thought he'd find happiness in his next life. How did you die? Was it related to Sylvia, or was Vance involved? If he's also been reborn, why would he claim not to like Sylvia? Then why does he keep defending her, giving everyone the impression he's into her? A sudden realization struck me like lightning. My lips trembled as I spoke. So all this time, your kindness towards Sylvia, your constant protection, making it seem like you're pursuing her, was just to provoke Vance's possessiveness toward her and redirect his attention from me to you, wasn't it? I bit my lower lip hard. Tears welled up in my eyes. Who told him to do that? I've been reborn too, and I'll protect myself this time. Galen gently wiped the tears from the corner of my. Silly, why are you crying? I'm perfectly fine. I pounded my fists against the man before me. Galen, why didn't you say anything? In our past life, I kept waiting for you to confess your feelings to me. But I never got to hear you say those words to me. Vance kept me locked up. He killed Mom, Dad, and my brother. I was so terrified. Every time I tried to escape, he'd drag me back, until one day I finally got away. I wanted to come find you, but then I heard you were engaged to Sylvia. I couldn't bear to ruin what you two have. I went to see Sylvia, but I never expected. The overwhelming despair and terror from my past life still haunted me. I bit my lower lip hard, my entire body trembling uncontrollably. Galen pulled me into a tight embrace. Hush now. It's over, Lila. In this lifetime, I won't let them hurt you again. Never again. Galen whispered hoarsely to the girl in his arms, his eyes rimmed red. In their past life, Sylvia had indeed revealed Vance's whereabouts to him, yet nothing could have prepared him for the sight of Lila's lifeless body when he finally found her. He could hardly believe the vibrant, adorable girl he cherished had been reduced to such a broken state. Only then did he realize Sylvia's vicious lies, that Lila never loved him, were deliberately fed to him. Sylvia kept sowing discord between him and Lila. His secret crush and cowardice made him hesitate to confess, playing right into Sylvia's hands and giving Vance the opening he needed. It never crossed his mind that the ordinary Samoyed could actually be a werewolf. Later, he pretended to submit to Sylvia and Vance. He set the house on fire and killed them while they were intimate. For this crime, he was convicted and ultimately took his own life in prison. My mind remained unsettled long after returning from Galen's place. My heart ached when I remembered how Galen took revenge for me in our past life, burning Sylvia and Vance alive, only to end his own life in prison. Galen, in this life, I won't let that wolf and that man stain your hands again. That day. Whispers trailed me the moment I stepped into the classroom. Hey, did you hear? Sylvia's back at school today with some ridiculously hot guy. Claims he's her boyfriend. What's going on? Is Sylvia planning to keep attending classes? One of the classmates flashed a look of scornful envy. What classes? She's already landed a sugar daddy. You think she'd still care about this dump of a university? Seriously, so Sylvia's dropping out? Absolutely. I heard it from my aunt, you know, the teaching assistant in our biology department. Word is, Sylvia's boyfriend isn't just drop-dead gorgeous, he's crazy protective of her too. OMG, total romance novel hero vibes. I'm so jealous of Sylvia. Honestly, Sylvia's luck is unreal. First, she had Lila bankrolling her lavish lifestyle despite being broke, and now she's landed some loaded hottie. Ugh, comparing yourself to others is the death of joy. Why can't I ever catch a break like that? Tara pouted nearby. What's the big deal? Some hot boyfriend, probably just a creep. I mean, what decent guy would stand by and watch his girlfriend drop out without saying a word, right, Lila? I couldn't help but sneer inwardly, though outwardly I said, who knows, maybe some people actually enjoy being controlled and watched over. Lila, what's this? Sounds like sour grapes to me. I looked up to see Sylvia, decked out in designer labels, walking toward me. Her face radiated undisguised smugness. The other students were all wearing smirks, clearly enjoying the drama. So what if you're a rich girl, Sylvia? You're still stuck in this dump of a school with no guys chasing after you or even liking you. I shot her an icy glare. I'm a student. What else should I be doing besides studying, following your example and going home to sleep with men? The classroom instantly filled with scornful and angry glances directed at Sylvia. Most students here came from modest backgrounds and had clawed their way into this university through sheer effort. Seeing Sylvia belittle the very institution they'd fought tooth and nail to enter naturally stoked their resentment. You, Lila, don't play dumb with me. We both know you're just bitter because I dumped Galen, the guy you've been pining for. Exactly. The classroom instantly erupted in chaos. Lila has a crush on the class president. No way. Hasn't the president always liked Sylvia? Haven't you heard? She already dumped him. I heard the class president and Lila were childhood sweethearts. Poor Lila, betrayed by both her best friend and her childhood friend, who said I betrayed Lila. I looked up to see Galen standing solemnly at the classroom door. When his gaze landed on me, a gentle smile curved his lips. Galen, I've told you I'm not interested. I'm with Vance now. Why can't you take the hint? Sylvia shot Galen a withering glare as he walked through the door. I couldn't help but sneer. Some people's brains exist solely for wishful thinking. Galen frowned and walked up to Sylvia, staring at her with a stern expression. Sylvia, brains are for thinking, not for daydreaming and fantasizing. The classroom erupted in laughter instantly. Sylvia's face turned pale with a mix of embarrassment and anger. Galen, you're just lashing out in embarrassment. You may not be as handsome or charming as Vance, but if you stop pestering me in front of him, I might reluctantly give you another chance. The crowd stood there with their mouths agape. No one expected Sylvia to be such a shameless woman. Galen made a disgusted face. Sylvia, are you suggesting we hook up behind Vance's back, trying to play both sides? Sylvia chuckled. Don't put it so crudely. You've got money, Vance has looks. You both adore me. I just hate to break either of your hearts. I've seen shameless people before, but Sylvia takes the cake. Yet the next second, Galen was standing right in front of me. Sylvia, after all Mr. Van's love for you, how could you try to play both sides? Listen carefully. I won't let you have your way, nor will I allow any harm to come to Mr. Van. 11. The person I love is Lila. The only reason I let you stay in my place was to give that Samiyad a better life instead of suffering with you. Your parents actually approved you keeping the Samiyad. Didn't they? Truth is, you just didn't want the responsibility, am I right? Sylvia turned pale, then blurted out defiantly, exactly, I never liked that Samiyad. It's high maintenance, domineering, and possessive. Sometimes it even bites me when it's in a bad mood. I've had enough of that damn animal, so I got rid of it. A cold sweat broke out instantly down my back. Wait, so Sylvia has no idea the hot guy Vance she keeps talking about is actually the Samiyad she abandoned. If Vance heard what Sylvia said, knowing him the way I do, she'd be in for a world of hurt. With that thought, I pressed the stop recording button. After Sylvia's shameless remarks that day, the school has been giving her the cold shoulder. The school administrators are relieved she dropped out. Who knows how much damage she could have done to the school's reputation. I anonymously sent Vance the unfiltered conversation between Sylvia and Galen from that day. After that, I started preparing for my graduation ceremony. I never saw Sylvia again after that day, nor did I hear any news about Sylvia. 3 months later, Galen and I officially graduated. On graduation day, I was honored to deliver a speech as the outstanding graduate representative. I put on exquisite makeup, and my brother had a gorgeous custom gown made for me. My entire family came to attend my graduation ceremony. Watching the leader speaking on stage, I was reminded of my past life. I could have had a bright future, with loving family and a significant other, but everything changed when I took Sylvia's advice and brought home that Samiyad. My life was never the same again, my family perished horribly, and I was tortured to death by that white wolf. As for my beloved, I turned to see Galen gazing at me with such tenderness that my eyes welled up. He died for me in that freezing prison cell. Galen gave my hand a gentle squeeze, wiping away my tears. Silly, why the tears? Don't be nervous, I'll be right here watching over you. I shook my head. I'm not nervous, I added silently. I just can't believe I lived to attend graduation, to see my family and the love of my life. After the leader's speech, it was my turn as the graduate representative to take the stage. Galen gave my hand a reassuring squeeze, signaling me to relax. I took a deep breath and walked steadily onto the stage. Seeing my parents, brother, and Galen in the audience, I allowed myself a small smile. I began reading from the script in my hands. Just as I reached the midpoint, a sudden commotion erupted from the audience. Someone screamed at the top of their lungs, "Fire! There's a fire!" I looked down in frozen shock. Who else could it be but Sylvia, standing in the corner with a swollen belly, holding a lighter, grinning at me with that eerie smile, though she'd withered to skin and bones, looking like a crone now. I recognized her instantly. Screams, wails, and frantic footsteps tangled together. My parents, brother, and Galen were nowhere to be seen in the crowd. The sea of people churned in chaotic disarray. People screamed and stampeded toward the exits. Pale-faced, I stumbled off the stage, shouting uncontrollably, "Brother, brother, Mom, Dad, where are you? Galen, Galen." But my voice was lost in the noisy hall. I was jostled by the crowd and tripped to the ground. Scorching smoke instantly filled the entire hall at that moment. I was consumed by despair. Why couldn't I protect my family even after being reborn? After all I've done, I'm such a fool. As my consciousness faded, I vaguely saw two tall figures rushing toward me in those final moments before blacking out. The pungent smell of disinfectant jolted me awake. When I opened my eyes, all I saw was blinding whiteness. Several frantic voices suddenly rang in my ears. "Lila, Lila, are you awake?" Then both my hands were firmly grasped by two pairs of larger hands. Weakly turning my head, I saw Mom and Dad each holding one of my hands, their eyes rimmed red. "Mom, Dad, don't cry. I'm fine now." See, my words only made them sob harder. Left with no choice, I tried changing the subject. "Dad, Mom, where are my brother and Galen?" 12. My parents froze, their eyes darting away uneasily. My heart skipped a beat, pounding inexplicably fast as panic surged through my chest, draining all color from my face. "Dad, Mom, what really happened to brother and Galen?" Cough, cough. My violent coughing terrified my parents. Mom immediately soothed. "Sweetheart, calm down. Your brother and Galen are just exhausted and resting next door. Don't worry." Hearing this, tears began streaming down my face. My parents' hearts ached so much they couldn't hold back their tears. All right, sweetheart. Just promise Mommy you'll stay calm, and I'll take you to see them, okay?" I nodded, but the tears kept flowing uncontrollably. In Galen and my brother's hospital room, staring at my brother and Galen lying there with their eyes closed, I wept inconsolably. "Didn't you say brother and Galen were fine? Why aren't they moving at all?" Dad looked wronged and somewhat helpless as he said, "Sweetheart, your brother and Galen are just asleep. Of course they're not moving." Mom chimed in from the side. "That's right, Lila, they're just exhausted and sleeping. Let's go home first, and we'll come back when they wake up, okay?" I stubbornly shook my head. "I'm not leaving. I'll wait here until they wake up." In the end, my parents had no choice but to have someone bring me a folding bed, where I slept while waiting for my brother and the others to wake up. A week later, I was discharged from the hospital without complications. As for Sylvia and Vance, I heard they perished in that fire. Galen told me he'd actually anticipated Sylvia would cause trouble, so he'd made preparations in advance. Both my brother and parents were aware of this matter. Galen had been having Vance's villa under surveillance for quite some time. He'd assigned people to tail Sylvia the moment she escaped from Vance's villa. Thus, Sylvia's every move fell right into his plans. He'd already tipped off his firefighter friends in advance, so in that fire, no one died except Sylvia and Vance. I was utterly shocked. "How could you be so sure Vance would take the bait and come for Sylvia?" he said. "Vance kept Sylvia captive, violating her night after night, yet gradually fell in love with her. But Sylvia was no faithful woman. She wanted not just Vance, but many other men. When Vance learned her true desires, his domineering and obsessive nature ensured he'd never let her go. No matter where Sylvia fled, he'd hunt her down. Sylvia figured out I was the one who sent Vance the recording. She'll definitely seek revenge. So Galen figured the first thing she'd do after escaping was come find me. Sure enough, Sylvia showed up. Vance's arrival was also within Galen's expectations. In the end, both Sylvia and Vance were consumed by the inferno. Galen's words left me completely unfazed. A woman like Sylvia is bound to get burned by playing with fire. A year later, Galen and I walked down the aisle surrounded by family and friends. The end. Story 2. My younger sister brought back a man with a limp and blind, but she didn't have the patience to take care of him. After leaving him to me, she chose to go on a trip out of province. But on the third day after she left, the apocalypse suddenly arrived. The man recovered his health under my care. Not only did he awaken powerful abilities, but he also treated me as precious as a treasure. When we met again, my sister was disfigured and had lost a hand. While I was living comfortably, my sister envied everything I had, and she even brought in mutated zombies to wipe us out. When I opened my eyes again, my sister handed me a packed suitcase and pushed me out of the door. "Sister, this time you go on a trip, and I'll take care of everything." I immediately turned around and left. Without my space and spiritual spring, I want to see how you will become the lady of the leader. When my sister appeared at the door with her suitcase, I was preparing to change Sebastian's bandages. Hearing the noise, Sebastian tilted his head towards the door and asked, "Is someone here?" My sister unceremoniously snatched the gauze from my hand, squatted in front of Sebastian, and said in a delicate voice, "Brother Sebastian, how could my sister do such delicate work? Let me change your bandages instead. Didn't you leave? Why are you back?" Although it was a questioning remark, the corners of Sebastian's lips were slightly raised. When I saw my sister rushing into the room with her suitcase, I knew she had also been reborn. In my previous life, my sister left without looking back, afraid that if she walked slowly, something would cling to her. I asked her, "What about the man you brought back?" She said nonchalantly, "Aren't you here? If it doesn't work, just throw him out." But now, She gently rested her head on Sebastian's knee, her tone filled with guilt. "I'm sorry. Brother Sebastian, I acted impulsively and made a mistake. Can you forgive me?" Seeing that Sebastian didn't speak, tears fell from her eyes down her cheeks, leaving a small mark on Sebastian's coat. As soon as I stepped out, I regretted it. My mind was filled with thoughts of how you would live without me, whether anyone would cook for you, whether anyone would change your bandages, and what if my sister really threw you out? Just thinking about these things makes me anxious. And I couldn't delay for a moment before rushing back. "You are the one I brought back, and I must take full responsibility for you." These words, along with his sister's tears, immediately softened Sebastian's heart, and he reached out to wipe her tears. He gently coaxed, "Don't cry anymore, your little face is all smeared." Little did he know, his sister was casting a triumphant glance at me. I watched coldly from the side, waiting for them to finish their performance before my sister finally remembered me. She shoved the suitcase into my hands, her tone revealing her unreserved excitement. "It's a pity that the scenic area tickets can't be refunded, so let my sister go travel for me." Saying this, she pushed me out the door and slammed it shut with a bang. I looked at the suitcase in my hands and sighed. Sebastian didn't understand why his sister suddenly changed her mind, but I was completely clear about it. In my previous life, my sister Mist was obsessed with online novels, and what she envied the most was the plot where an ordinary female lead picks up a down-and-out male lead and eventually soars to success. So when she encountered the limping, blind Sebastian by the roadside, she immediately took him home. But she has always found even washing dishes tiring, so how could she endure the exhaustion of taking care of a sick person? After taking care of things for a few days, Mist passed this burden on to me and went out to travel. However, no one expected the apocalypse to break out so suddenly. The tourist spot Mist went to was overcrowded and became one of the most dangerous places when the apocalypse arrived. I had always thought she had perished in the jaws of a zombie, yet, 2 years after the outbreak of the apocalypse, I saw her again. She was disheveled, with a dirty scarf wrapped around her face, her eyes vacant and devoid of any spirit. But when she saw me, a strong and piercing hatred erupted. Sebastian, who had already become the leader of the base, keenly noticed her gaze and immediately ordered her to be captured, tearing off the scarf that covered her face. It was then that I realized Mist was still alive, but she was not living well. She had not only lost one hand but also had her once proud face ruined. In order to cheer me up, Sebastian found a healing ability user to treat Mist, providing her with water and food, and even allowing her to stay in the safe base without having to complete missions like others. However, she not only did not feel grateful, but also blamed all her misfortunes on me, believing that I had taken away her life. "Sebastian was picked up by me. If it weren't for you stealing my credit, the pampered leader's wife should have been me." I said nothing in response to her accusations, only looking at her with pity. Mist had approached Sebastian privately more than once, crying to him about the hardships of the past 2 years, saying that it was she who brought the near-death Sebastian home. Sebastian pretended to deal with it on the surface, but behind my back, he complained to me that Mist was ungrateful, that everything she had now was because of me, and that he felt nauseous seeing Mist's face. After Mist once again crawled into bed to seduce Sebastian, he got angry and ordered someone to throw her out of the base. This time, Mist finally cast a pleading look at me, but I silently looked away. Mist, driven mad by jealousy, did not hesitate to use her own flesh and blood to attract a large number of zombies, among which were even mutated zombies that ignored abilities. The entire base was destroyed in an instant under the claws of the zombies, became the burial companion of me and Mist. In this life, my sister unhesitatingly hugged Sebastian's thigh. Although taking care of the patients was physically and mentally exhausting, there was no need to panic and flee anymore, suffering greatly, and the food at home was enough to last until the day Sebastian awakened his powers. I could also be cherished by Sebastian for his kindness, ultimately becoming the envy of everyone as the leader's wife who could live in luxury even in the apocalypse. "Sister, it's my turn to be the pampered leader's wife this time." Looking at the message my sister sent on my phone, I pretended to be unaware and replied, "Huh, what are you talking about?" The jade bracelet on my wrist emitted a refreshing coolness in the summer. I smiled. "I want to see how Sebastian can become a powerful ability user without the spiritual spring in the space of the jade bracelet, going from a useless person to something great." I was kicked out of my home by my sister. With nowhere to go, the apocalypse will break out in 3 days, and the urgent task is to quickly find a place to take shelter. I hurriedly found the real estate agent at the entrance of the community and asked her to help me find a high-end suburban community as quickly as possible. The real estate agent was very efficient, and we agreed to view the house in the afternoon. While I still had some time, I made another trip to the wholesale market to buy enough supplies for 3 months, and secretly stored them all in the jade bracelet in a hidden corner. The space inside the jade bracelet is large, but I have the spiritual spring and do not lack the ability to survive in the apocalypse. I do not need to seize the opportunities of ordinary people to survive. After viewing several houses, I finally settled on one that I was quite satisfied with in all aspects, and immediately signed the contract and made the payment with the landlord. The real estate agent politely declined the double commission I wanted to pay her, saying that it was her duty. Her face was youthful, and she arrived drenched in sweat, yet she still remembered to hold an umbrella for me. A certain place in my heart was touched, and I pressed my lips together and fell silent. I was lost in thought and almost got knocked down by a speeding electric bike, but the real estate agent pulled me back. In an instant, many images flashed before my eyes. The girl cried out helplessly, the zombies had terrifying, gaping mouths, and a blood-soaked girl staggered towards another panicked person. I turned to the agent beside me, opened my mouth, but couldn't say a word. This is my supernatural ability. I can foresee things through touch. Just before we were about to part, I couldn't help but remind her, if possible, please take a few days off and stay at home, stock up on food and water. With the experience from my previous life, I have made it a principle not to interfere in others' destinies, but seeing such a vibrant and tender life perish, I still cannot bear it. The agent girl was taken aback and asked, "Is there some virus?" She then shook her head. "No, I can't take leave, or I won't have perfect attendance, but I will stock up on some food. Thank you." I suggested treating her to a juice, and this time she did not refuse. While she went to the restroom, I added a few drops of spring water to her juice. It is not enough to mutate her into a superhuman, but it can greatly increase her chances of awakening her abilities. I hope she can safely get through the dark period before her ability awakening. That night, I moved into the newly rented house, thought for a moment, and then flashed into the space of the jade bracelet. In my previous life, after Mist ran away, the apocalypse broke out. Sebastian and I were forced to be trapped in one place. He was eccentric due to his imperfections and being abandoned, often breaking cups and dishes. The splintered pieces cut my arm, blood dripping onto the jade bracelet, and I was sucked into a strange space, too. Inside, there was a grassland the size of an acre, along with a clear spring. I immediately understood that this was the spiritual spring space described in novels. But I wasn't sure if the spiritual spring had side effects, so I added it to Sebastian's diet, treating him like a lab rat. It wasn't until 3 days later that Sebastian's blind eyes surprisingly regained sight, and his broken leg could barely stand, that I finally felt relieved. At that moment, I stood beside the spiritual spring, observing this pool that was about 1 square meter in size. If it were just for me, I fear it would last forever, but in a world where the system has collapsed, what is more terrifying than zombies is the human heart. If someone with ulterior motives learns about the effects of the spiritual spring, I might be torn to pieces. Various faces flashed through my mind, and I made up my mind. Before I could make a move, my relative's call came through to my phone. The caller ID displayed my second aunt's name, and after thinking for a moment, I pressed the answer button. Ever since my parents passed away 3 years ago, these relatives have had no contact with my family. Now that they are reaching out, it must be my good sister's doing. Juno, did something happen to you? Second aunt, I'm fine. What's wrong? There was a pause on the other end, then she cursed. That little brat Mist actually dared to deceive me. She said you got into a car accident and were lying in the ICU, borrowing 50,000 yuan from me. You're my brother's blood, and I was worried something happened to you, so I transferred it to her. But the more I thought about it, the more it didn't add up. So I called to ask, and it turns out she really was lying to me. I didn't say anything, and she continued to ramble. I only transferred it to her because of you, so you need to get that money back for me. I interrupted her. I have no relationship with Mist anymore. Her matters have nothing to do with me. By the way, you should just stay at home honestly these days and stock up on some food. After she finished speaking, she wanted to say something else, and I directly hung up the phone. Then I received several calls from relatives, all saying that Miss borrowed money from them, those who had shown me kindness in the past. I anonymously transferred the money back after hanging up. For someone like my second aunt who kicks someone when they're down, just reminding her is already my utmost kindness. There are only 2 days left until the apocalypse, when the system collapses and money becomes worthless. These relatives might not even have their lives to ask her for repayment. She really knows how to calculate her gains, and she is as selfish as ever. She takes all the advantages and still wants to seize others' means of survival. It's truly despicable. After my parents passed away, I was worried about the safety of the 2 girls, so I installed cameras in every corner of the house. I opened the monitoring app to see what Mist was doing. To my surprise, I saw 2 blurry figures. Mist, with a flushed face, is looking at the camera, casting a provocative glance. Sister, you mustn't be jealous of me. I immediately turned off the surveillance and felt a wave of nausea. After calming down, I switched to the living room camera. Countless supplies were almost filling the entire living room, and the doors and windows had been reinforced. It seems she borrowed money just to buy supplies. Not too stupid. After all, after experiencing the lockdown, I developed a habit of stockpiling food. In my previous life, during the apocalypse, The food I stockpiled barely lasted me and Sebastian for 2 months, but I always stocked up quietly. While missed, at owner of Building 3, Unit 1806, are you buying these things because you have news that another lockdown is coming? I looked at the message in the owner group that tagged me and smiled knowingly. I didn't reply, and several owners below have already started to inquire. Miss didn't join the owner group, so she naturally doesn't know about this matter. And I don't plan to tell her either. After all, the most terrifying thing in the apocalypse has never been zombies, but the unfathomable human heart. My dear sister, I hope you can hold on safely until your brother Sebastian awakens his powers. 2 days before the apocalypse, I wrapped myself tightly and arrived at the armed police base in Lynn City, and before being treated as a suspicious person, I said with a determined expression, "Hello, I have important information to report." The armed police on duty glanced at me curiously, and seeing that my expression didn't seem fake, one looked at me while the other went in to report. After a while, a female police officer politely checked for any suspicious items on me and invited me into the reception room. Once the door was closed, the female police officer signaled for me to explain the situation. I nodded, rolled up my sleeve, and revealed the jade bracelet. Officer, what I'm about to say might sound like a fairy tale, but it's all true. There is an alternate space inside my jade bracelet, containing a spiritual spring that can enhance physical strength. Saying that, I took a dagger out of the jade bracelet. Instead of paying attention to the officer who quickly reached for his gun, I gritted my teeth and slashed my arm fiercely, causing blood to gush out and drip onto the clean floor, very noticeable. Then I conjured a stream of water from nowhere, which flowed over the wound, stopping the bleeding and healing it visibly. Within a few breaths, the wound had only left a faint pink mark, and the noticeable bloodstains on the floor proved that it was not an illusion. A silence fell in the room, everyone present was stunned, and their expressions turned serious. They were all trained, and at that moment, anyone could tell that this item was extraordinary. I then looked at the female officer. Are you willing to enter the space with me? The female police officer swallowed hard, instinctively looking at the chief. After receiving a nod from him, she saluted with a sense of duty. Yes, seeing her obey the orders despite her obvious fear eased my tension a bit. I took her hand and reassured her, "Don't be afraid. You might feel a little dizzy." With a thought, I took her into the space. The female officer was dumbfounded, her eyes filled with horror, yet she did not forget her mission. She stretched her leg forward to confirm the grass was real, and her expression became even more complex. When we reappeared in the reception room, everyone turned their gaze to the female officer. She nodded with difficulty, confirming that what I said was the truth. The chief's expression was cold and he said nothing. I said again, "After drinking the spring water, my body underwent some changes. When I touch a person or object, I can briefly see their future." I stepped forward, my nose suddenly felt sour, and I almost shed tears. I see a future where dead things roam, sorrow fills the land, and humanity struggles to survive among the ruins, being harvested for life by countless monsters. Order collapses, and the monsters hidden in the darkness wreak havoc on the world. Survivors are forced to succumb to the darkness, never to see dawn again. Please, please believe me." 2 lines of tears flowed down her cheeks. I could have stood by and not revealed my secret. Let the zombies run rampant and the order collapse. I can live comfortably in the post-apocalyptic world with my spatial spring. If I wanted to, I could also establish a base like in my previous life and become a king or a tyrant. What's the loss of humanity? For me, it's actually a good thing. I can take a million ways to take revenge on those who once bullied me. I have lived on this land since childhood, and the people on this land have given me enough care and kindness. I love them. I love this land. I'm just an ordinary person who got lucky, but I still have a conscience. The young and determined faces in front of me were completely wiped out in the first wave of the zombie outbreak. Protecting the people. In this world, only our country's army would be in front of the people, giving us a chance for survival. Stumbling infants. Students discussing their idol sneakers. Working people rushing for life, elderly people exercising in the morning. I couldn't bear it. In my previous life, I had regretted countless times, but I was also trapped, powerless. In this life, I took off the jade bracelet and placed it on the table in front of the leader. Giving the jade bracelet to the country would be more useful than having it in my hands. After a long period of tense atmosphere, a pair of hands with calluses from shooting guns returned the jade bracelet to me. "We believe in you." In one day, I was taken to meet several groups of leaders and demonstrated the spiritual spring of the jade bracelet space. Finally, an old man who often appeared on television came to me and extended his hand. "Ms. Juno, on behalf of the people of the nation, I thank you for your selfless dedication. Now, please cooperate with us to extract the spring water for testing." I solemnly shook hands with him. "It is my honor. Time is tight, and no one delayed." I immediately began to extract the spring water. The old man sat aside, watching me disappear and then reappear with a water bucket, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. I handed a small cup of spring water to the old man. "Sir, please go ahead." He was taken aback for a moment, then smiled and shook his head. "I am already old. Please let it serve its greatest purpose. The spring water is not an inexhaustible resource. To maximize the use of limited resources, the extracted spring water will be prioritized for the special forces of the elite units." I didn't persuade him further and continued to move in and out of the space. After the pool of spring water was drained, I sat pale in the chair, wiping away a bead of sweat. 3. With such high-intensity use of space, even though I have long awakened my abilities, I still find it a bit overwhelming. The female police officer handed me a cup of hot water, and I took it while pulling out my phone. Due to the emergency notification being issued so suddenly, there are panic-stricken voices all over the internet, speculating why the city was suddenly ordered to be locked down. Among them are not a few conspiracy theorists. In response to this statement, the official replied with 4 words: "Trust the country. After all, it is just my one-sided opinion, although the country chooses to believe it. They cannot say too bluntly that the apocalypse has arrived, and can only implement control measures. This way, even if the apocalypse hasn't come, they can explain to the public that there is an unknown virus." I thought for a moment and decided to open the forum. On the forum, there were already imaginative netizens speculating whether the apocalypse had come, but they were quickly drowned out by a tide of new posts. I edited a warning post, which detailed how to counter or escape from zombies, how to deal with family and friends who suddenly mutate, and the list of supplies that must be prepared at home. I didn't think it would cause much stir, but the post suddenly shot to the top of the hot search list within half an hour, with the red-hot word standing out prominently. That such a post could reach the top of the hot search list, it's obvious that it's tacitly allowed by the country. I felt a little relieved. I hope more people who are under lockdown can click on this hot search when they are bored, whether they believe it or not. At least they will have this awareness. At that moment, Mist's phone call came in. I answered the call. "Sister, didn't you go to see Province?" I laughed inwardly, but my voice carried a hint of grievance. "Your ticket isn't in my name. How can I go?" She was momentarily speechless. "Why couldn't you just buy one yourself?" But I didn't want to go either. "It was you who drove me out." This time her voice turned cold. "Sister, you are also reborn, right?" I didn't respond, and she continued. "That post online was posted by you, right? You really are an unparalleled great saint mother. You're about to die, yet you're still worried about others' lives. In your past life, you could only get others to look at you because of Sebastian Brother's abilities. Do you really think of yourself as a savior? I want to see how you survive in this life without Sebastian Brother. Just watch me become the high and mighty leader's wife. If there's a chance, I will collect your body for you then." I let out a light laugh. "All right, I will wait and see." The time node of the apocalypse is the same as in the previous life. However, due to lockdowns at home, although there are infected individuals, it hasn't fallen like in the previous life where a city would collapse in a day. Although there are increasingly more cases appearing, it is still within a controllable range. The government of Huagua can only control the situation with early intervention, but foreign countries are not so lucky. In just 3 days, almost the entire world has fallen. Discussions about the apocalypse online are intensifying, and many pessimists are despairingly commenting that foreign countries have already fallen. How long can Huagua hold out? It would be better to die early. At least one wouldn't turn into an ugly zombie. The speaker is unintentional, but the listener is attentive, and numerous suicide incidents have occurred in various places. At this moment, a short video shot from a hidden perspective quickly spread online. In the video, fully armed soldiers descend from the sky and crash into a horde of zombies, engulfed in flames the moment they land. The person filming the video gasped in surprise, causing the viewers in front of the screen to hold their breath. The soldiers' flames transformed into a flock of fire crows, directly rushing towards the snarling zombies, reducing them to ashes. After all the zombies were cleared, the soldiers stepped out of the flames, unscathed. The text says, "When did humanity evolve without me knowing?" The video caused a huge stir online, with millions of shares already. Netizens in the comments section started sharing their secretly taken photos. They appeared. The standard power of the apocalypse. It's only been a few days and power users have already appeared. Is this a sign that the upper echelons already knew about the apocalypse? What are you implying? If you were sent abroad, you would be quiet. Did you notice the red star on the power users' chests? This must be our secret weapon, right? Has anyone noticed the red star on the power users' chests? This must be our secret weapon. Is there a chance for ordinary people to awaken their abilities? I can't even imagine how happy I would be if I could control fire, like a little girl. The LOM Silent official account has also released a message. "We have always been here." The online public opinion has gradually calmed down, and posts of panic and despair have turned into posts of self-rescue and finding joy in hardship. But those who harbor ill intentions in the shadows have quietly emerged. The sudden lockdown caught most families unprepared, and by this time, They had almost consumed all the food stored at home. Prices have already skyrocketed more than once. Although the authorities have explicitly prohibited the high-priced sale of goods, more people choose to take risks and trade secretly. Messages in the owners group keep popping up, most of which are tagging me, at owner of Building 3, Unit 1806, during this special period, since your family has stockpiled so many supplies. Can we help each other out? To the owner of Unit 1806 in Building 3? We are all neighbors, and we are not asking for it for free. How about we buy it for 3 times the price? I saw it that day. Several trucks of supplies. Even if we eat until we die, we won't finish it all. I live next door to her, and there are only 2 sisters in her house. To the owner of Unit 1806 in Building 3, do you have any extra cold medicine? My child suddenly has a high fever, and the nearby malls and pharmacies are already out of stock. How can there be such selfish people profiting from national disasters? It's really disgusting. Seeing that I didn't reply, the subsequent comments became more and more furious and increasingly unbearable. Someone raised a question. Could it be that both sisters have turned into zombies? Immediately someone refuted. Impossible. There are sounds coming from their house every day. They definitely can't have turned into zombies. There are neighbors who really can't stand it and have put me online recently. There have been quite a few similar incidents. This post ignited a spark in the dry grass and quickly spread. My personal privacy was exposed, and my inbox was filled with insulting private messages, and my phone was overwhelmed with calls. Various malicious curses came one after another. Even Miss sent a mocking laugh. Sister, now you've really made a name for yourself. Everyone in the country knows you. Isn't this better than being the wife of the leader? I didn't reply to Mist's message. She soon stopped laughing. The neighbor's anger had reached its peak, and someone sent a message in the group. I'm going to confront her in person. Soon after, there was no more sound, probably because they were heading to my house. I turned on the surveillance camera, and they too were sitting in the living room surrounded by a pile of supplies eating self-heating hot pot. Sebastian hesitated. What if they come to our door? Miss said proudly. Don't worry, they think I'm my sister. And with zombies in the hallway, they won't dare to come out. Brother Sebastian, once you awaken your powers, we can use these supplies to establish a base. Okay, at that time, I'll be the leader, and you will be my leader's wife. Saying this, the two of them laughed and rolled around together, but the next second, they couldn't laugh anymore. The security door was being banged loudly, and there were noisy sounds coming from the entrance. Mist looked through the peephole with a serious face. And outside stood a dozen men and women, covered in the stench of zombie blood and flesh. They actually risked being bitten by zombies just to come and demand an explanation. Open the door. If you don't open the door, we'll find a way to get in ourselves. Miss muttered something under his breath, but Sebastian hasn't awakened his ability yet, and the man in front was holding a chainsaw. Even if they didn't open the door, they could break it down by force. She wasn't an idiot. And after weighing the pros and cons, she finally opened the door. When the group saw the full living room filled with supplies, they widened their eyes, then became even more angry. You have so much stuff, but you don't sell it to us. Do you want to watch us die? Facing their accusations, Mist raised his chin and sneered. Buy? What are you going to buy with? In this world, money is just a string of numbers. What use is it? Nowadays, supplies are more valuable than life. My brother Sebastian is a powerful ability user. If you are willing to listen to us, we can give you all these supplies. Upon hearing about the ability user, the neighbors clearly took a step back, their faces showing a look of fear. The man at the forefront calmed down and asked, if there really are superhumans, we are willing to listen to you, but we want to see if it's true first. For Mist's expression became even more arrogant as he shifted to reveal Sebastian behind him. This is Sebastian, the leader of the future time base, a powerful ice-type superhuman. Everyone looked over, and for a moment, their expressions were extremely strange. Are you saying that this blind Lamewaste is a superhuman? Mist's face instantly darkened. You can forget about seeking our base's protection in the future. Pa, do you really think I care? The man revved the chainsaw, and the two immediately dared not speak again. After exchanging glances, Mist honestly gathered the supplies they needed for them. They threw cash into Mist's arms, spat, and turned to leave. I thought the timing was about right, so I edited in the group chat. I'm sorry, I've been kicked out by my sister, and I was only saved by the police. I'm sorry everyone, I'm also powerless. Attached a photo from the police station, as well as the police station's location. As soon as this was said, the group chat exploded. Everyone turned their attention to Mist. Among the people who went to Mist's house, someone recorded a video confirming that I was not at home. Mist's bizarre statements such as money is just numbers, supplies are more valuable than life, and future mutants quickly went viral. Mist, seeing the online comments, was furious, but could only console himself by saying, once Sebastian awakens his mutant powers, I'll show these people a thing or two. Most mutants were sent to the border to guard against zombies entering the country. Each community spontaneously organized manpower to eliminate the zombies that had mutated within the neighborhood, although they are close friends and family who spend every day together. If one does not harden their heart, Foreign countries are the best example. The police gradually recovered from the initial lack of manpower and crushed the emerging dark forces in their cradle, arresting many opportunists. The community also has dedicated personnel responsible for delivering supplies to every household. Thus, 10 days passed in a chaotic yet orderly manner. Gradually, some individuals among the crowd awakened their abilities, and the online atmosphere was filled with joy. However, the atmosphere in Mist's home became increasingly oppressive. Mist had seen the process of ordinary people awakening their abilities in her past life and knew that the precursor to awakening was a high fever. At first, she asked Sebastian every day if he felt dizzy or unwell, and comforted herself by thinking it was too soon and that the time for awakening had not yet come. Later, as more and more people awakened their abilities, she finally became anxious. She was becoming increasingly impatient with Sebastian, and the delicate facade she had maintained in front of him was torn apart, revealing her irritable and vicious nature. Ignoring Sebastian's wishes, she forcibly dragged him into the bathroom and soaked him in ice water, attempting to induce a fever through external means. Sebastian was already a patient with average physical condition, and after a few attempts, it was only natural that he developed a high fever. Mist was overjoyed, taking care of Sebastian meticulously while muttering curses. "Those who have humiliated me, your time of death has come." Sebastian awakened his supernatural ability as expected, but it left Mist dumbfounded. Because of Sebastian's supernatural ability, although it was ice-based, it was not even 1,000th as powerful as in his previous life. Barely able to chill a can of soda, Mist was devastated. She was screaming and shouting in the house, yelling things like impossible and fraud. I lay in the rental room drinking ice beer taken from the space, enjoying her furious performance of incompetence. In the surveillance footage, Mist was venting her frustrations hoarsely, resembling a madwoman. She suddenly seemed to remember something and took out her phone, her expression fierce. The next second, my phone rang. I calmly answered, and Mist screamed through the phone, "Juno, it's you, right? It must be your doing. Why didn't the apocalypse break out like in my past life? Why is Sebastian's ability so weak? What exactly did you do? What exactly are you hiding? Do you want to know?" I said with a playful smile. "I just won't tell you." She was taken aback for a moment, then erupted into an even more hoarse scream. A few days later, I received another call from Mist. This time it was a video call. In the video, she looked exhausted yet crazily relieved, with her gaunt cheeks splattered with blood. I didn't say anything, but silently opened the surveillance footage. Meanwhile, Miss stared at me blankly and suddenly spoke up. "Sister, did I do something wrong? Why is it that even when I get a second chance, I still can't live the life I want? What step did I not get right?" She painfully covered her eyes, tears washing over the blood, leaving two deep ravines. I looked at Sebastian, lifeless on the ground in the surveillance footage, and roughly understood what had happened. Sebastian's abilities did not meet Mist's expectations, her fantasies shattered, and her mind had already collapsed. She used various vicious words to insult Sebastian, calling him useless and trash. As soon as I saw the news about the ability users online, I punched and kicked Sebastian. Sebastian is not the type to passively accept things, and after Mist had been obediently saying he was a powerful ability user for some time, he had long assumed he was the leader who could summon the wind and rain in his past life. How could he tolerate this kind of humiliation? But his abilities were indeed weak. He had secretly accumulated power for several days to condense a sharp ice spear, so today, he took advantage of Mist's unpreparedness to launch a sneak attack, intending to kill her in one blow. However, Mist, after all, was someone who had experienced a real apocalypse and survived. How could a cripple defeat her? She counterattacked Sebastian, beating him to a pulp. In his past life, Sebastian awakened his abilities early under the influence of the spiritual spring water and was very powerful. I asked him to go to the neighboring province to find my sister Mist for me. He agreed, but delayed day after day. Although I have the spiritual spring jade bracelet, I have no ability to protect myself. After seeing that he was not planning to help me rescue my sister, I intended to set out alone, but I didn't want to be caught by him and imprisoned. He snatched my jade bracelet, only to find that it had already recognized its owner, and only I could use it. He forced me to have relations with him, wanting to bind me with my chastity. Thus, I became his forbidden delicacy. His ambitions grew larger, relying on his powerful abilities to dominate in the apocalypse. While hypocritically establishing a survivor base, he forced me to provide him with spiritual spring water every day. If I refused, he would kill innocent survivors in front of me. To maintain his facade, he pretended to cherish me in front of others, but I knew deep down that it was just an illusion. When Mist found the base, I was shocked, and after seeing her disfigured face, I felt a bit relieved. In this way, At least I wouldn't become a fashionable plaything, but she took a wrong turn, believing that I had taken the position that originally belonged to her. On the day Sebastian expelled her from the base, I actually had the ability to save her, but I didn't, because on the day she arrived at the base, I saw the future. The mutated zombies broke through the base and killed everyone, leaving only the two of us sisters opening our eyes in the past. 5. I did not stop Mist, nor did I give any warning. I let the zombies destroy the base. She did something wrong, but it also brought a glimmer of light. Originally, I planned to throw Sebastian out to fend for himself and endure the apocalypse with her, but she did not hesitate to trick me into going to the scenic area to die. Never mind. Then, Mist listened to me, crying and laughing, acting like a madwoman. Why didn't you tell me? You didn't tell me in the past life. And you still didn't tell me in this life. Are you enjoying watching me suffer? Do you not want me to be happy? I shook my head. No, it's you who doesn't want me to be happy. If your jealousy hadn't been so obvious in the past life, I would have told you everything. You abandoned Sebastian, you traveled out of province, you seduced Sebastian, you brought the zombies, you chose Sebastian again in this life, and you pushed me to my death. All of this was your choice. I've always been forced to accept it. She was frantically grasping her hair, nervously biting her lip. No way, no way, you've always been worse than me. I'm the main character of the novel. Why do you have the advantage and I don't? It must be you who stole my opportunities. It must be you. I watched her silently. When have you ever looked at me with respect? If you had just looked at me, if you hadn't always relied on others, you wouldn't be in this situation today. I'm also curious. Why are you always fixated on me? Do you want to kill me? Mist was stunned, then laughed wildly. You can't even compare to me. Why do you get to have a better life than me? Why? I've reincarnated. I'm the female lead of a novel. One more time, one more time. If I have one more chance, I will definitely beat you. She laughed crazily, then stabbed a dagger into her neck, and blood spurted out immediately. She whispered, I must win, her eyes filled with bloodshot, wide open, and a smile on her lips. I stared at her expressionlessly, then dialed the police. Hello. I want to report a suicide at Bayin residential area, building 3, room 1806. It won't happen again. I see flowers blooming in the ruins, and humanity regrouping. Half a year later, under the continuous supply of spirit water, over 1 million soldiers have all awakened their abilities. The country has established a superpower bureau to manage and regulate superpower individuals. Helicopters are continuously spraying diluted spirit water over the skies of Huagua, and the number of infected humans is gradually decreasing. Occasionally, a few are eliminated by superpower individuals in the civilian sector. The mutated zombies from the previous life did not appear on Huagua's land. Only the soldiers who went to Japan and America for rescue brought back news, and people only then realized that the outside world had already become a hellish wasteland. Another half a year passed, and a vaccine to prevent the zombie virus was developed. People no longer have to worry about someone around them suddenly turning into a zombie, and life is gradually returning to normal. Soldiers went to various countries to search for survivors, and after confirming there were no survivors, they evacuated. Then aircraft conducted a full-scale bombing, and finally followed up with a round of incendiary bombs. The fresh air of other countries before the apocalypse no longer exists, replaced by ruins. After this crisis, the global population is less than 1/3 of what it was before. The world order has changed dramatically, and Huagua has become the undisputed center of the world. In the 18th month of the apocalypse, the whole country celebrated, and all of humanity gathered in front of the television. The elderly man with gray hair could not hide his joy amidst his solemnity as he announced, the darkest moment has passed, and the light of dawn will shine on every survivor, on behalf of all humanity. I solemnly declare, we have won. Cheers broke through the clouds. The helicopter no longer dropped medicine, but instead scattered flowers. People spontaneously took to the streets, embracing strangers they didn't know, sharing the joy of surviving the disaster. A few survivors of different skin colors looked on with envy, and the cheering crowd took their hands, joining them in the parade. Tenacious weeds sprout from the cracks in the tiles, blooming into beautiful flowers. All that has passed is now behind us, and we will all enter a new chapter. The future will surely overcome the past. Story 2. As the apocalypse arrived, I was betrayed by a scumbag who pushed me into a horde of zombies. The scumbag's mother said, "You brought this upon yourself by clinging to my son. It's already merciful enough that we haven't devoured you." In the moment I was overwhelmed by zombies, I was reborn. When the apocalypse came, the city turned into ruins, and tens of thousands of zombies swarmed like locusts, bound hand and foot. I watched as pairs of bloody hands pierced my body. Suddenly, the urgent ringing of a bell jolted me awake, and sunlight streamed in through the gaps in the curtains. It was just a dream, and I breathed a sigh of relief. But within seconds, a flood of images surged into my mind. Dark shadows over the city, eerie screams, noisy footsteps, faces rotting away. My body unable to move, I sat up abruptly. Clutching the blanket and grabbing my phone from beside the bed, the screen read, August 23rd, 2022, 10 a.m. How could this be? I clearly remembered being bitten on the neck by a horde of zombies, the last memory being the foul stench of the undead and the excruciating pain of my throat being torn apart, subconsciously. I touched my neck, smooth and unscathed. I jumped out of bed and pulled open the curtains. The glaring sunlight hit me suddenly. The unusual high temperatures of the past few days had reached 40 degrees. The neighborhood was eerily quiet, with hardly anyone around except for a few delivery personnel moving about below. I gasped for air, trying to calm my racing heart. I had been reborn. Reborn before the apocalypse began. Initially, my best friend who worked at the hospital called me, advising me to stock up and stay indoors. When I asked if something was wrong, she hesitated and simply told me to do as she said. Sensing the seriousness from her tone, I obediently went to the supermarket and stocked up on food and water, preparing to not leave the house for 3 years. Little did I know, the situation was more terrifying than I imagined. Just 2 hours later, the zombie virus outbreak engulfed the city of over 10 million people, turning it into a hell on earth. My ex-boyfriend Abraham and his mother, knowing I had supplies, drove over in the middle of the night to take me and my supplies back to their place. The supplies meant for my 3-year sustenance, shared with Abraham and his mother, ran out in less than 2 years. When the food was gone, to distract the zombies downstairs, they tied me up and pushed me into the zombie crowd so they could escape to find food. The memory of being bitten by the zombies made me shudder. I never wanted to go through that again. This house was bought while consoling my best friend through a breakup. She was so down that even shopping didn't lift her spirits. Just then, a new building project was distributing flyers. Suddenly, I had an idea. How about we buy a house? Let's buy it together and live together when we're old. How does that sound? My friend was taken aback, clearly tempted by my suggestion. After all, a house is much more reliable than a man. We immediately agreed and paid a deposit. Because my friend was a doctor and worked night shifts, we chose the top-floor apartments to avoid being disturbed during the day. However, this house also became a thorn in the side for Abraham and his mother, who insisted I sell it and use the money to renovate a property in Abraham's name. Naturally, I refused, since Abraham passed the civil service examination. His family's attitude towards me has done a complete 180-degree turn. With the acquisition of this new house, our relationship has hit rock bottom. Abraham even laid it on the line. Break up if you don't sell the house. Then, he kicked me out of the apartment we rented together. When my best friend found out, she immediately took me in at her place. Thinking of this, I immediately dialed her number. It took a while before she answered the phone, her voice loud and clear. Honey, did you know I've been in the emergency room lately? I asked her. Has your hospital recently admitted any patients with something like rabies? She paused, hesitating before responding. We just admitted one. How did you know? That's not rabies. It's a zombie virus. Anyone bitten will turn into a zombie soon, and there's no cure, I explained. Zombies? Are you joking? She asked incredulously. No, believe me, I've got inside information. You need to catch a flight home immediately, I urged. There was silence for a few seconds before she replied, okay. I believe you, but my brother just flew in from home today. He might still be on the plane. Go to the airport and wait for him. As soon as he lands, take the next flight home together, I instructed. She pressed on. What about you? Come with us. My best friend's family, living in the Northwest, still included her parents, whereas mine had passed away long ago, leaving me with no ties. My college tuition was even funded by her parents. And although I repaid them as soon as I started working, I still regarded them as my own family. I have other things to handle here, I said, my mind set on avenging past grievances. After ending the call, I calculated all the money I could access over the years I had saved up, and with the recent severance pay from being laid off, it totaled up to 160,000 yuan. This amount was far from sufficient, but it would allow me to buy some essential supplies for now. Our residential area was newly developed, lacking complete amenities, with the nearest supermarket 5 kilometers away. Without delay, I called the supermarket to arrange a home delivery. I ordered 20 bags of flour, 5 bags each of various grains, 20 cans of cooking oil, and 10 boxes each of condiments, white sugar, and brown sugar, along with 200 kilograms each of dried goods like black fungus, shiitake mushrooms, and vermicelli. Additionally, I ordered 10 boxes each of snacks, dried fruit, jerky, sausages, instant noodles, hot and sour noodles, and my favorite, snail noodles, along with canned milk powder, soy milk powder, cereals, coffee, and more soy milk powder. Next on the list were hygiene products, especially sanitary pads. I had all the supermarket stock delivered. Then came the electronics. There was an electronics store nearby. I ordered 4 air conditioners, 3 rice cookers, 6 electric frying pans, 10 electric kettles, 10 induction cookers, And 10 electric blankets. I remembered that gas would be cut off half a month after the apocalypse. Cooking would depend solely on solar power. After the apocalypse, temperatures would soar, with blazing sun every day for a year, followed by a sudden drop in continuous heavy snow for several months. Thus, I also planned to buy several gas cylinders, even a stove and coal. This way, when it was too snowy for solar power, I could use coal for heat and cooking. Just as I hung up, I heard a knock at the door. Peering through the peephole, I saw my best friend and a tall man. Only then did I open the door with relief. She spoke quickly. "This is my brother, Adam. He had just disembarked from the plane when the airport was locked down, and we couldn't leave. It seems the government has realized something was wrong and is trying to prevent the virus from spreading. There's no leaving now." Without delay, I showed them the checklist I had prepared to see if anything was missing. My best friend looked it over for a while, then looked up at me with a deep, somber gaze. Her stare gave me the creeps. I knew she still had many questions, but we both understood that now was not the time for that. Being a wealthy second generation, money wasn't a concern for her, so we decided to continue shopping and organized a detailed division of labor. I went on to purchase supplies, while my best friend reached out to a classmate who worked at a pharmacy to buy medicines. Adam, who specializes in electrical engineering, was tasked with buying a refrigerator, retrofitting the main door, handling the plumbing and electrical systems, and installing a water purifier and solar power units. Following online guides, I bought 20 cotton quilts, various clothes for all seasons, several large boxes of underwear, 50 power banks for drones, high-power binoculars, pepper spray, hemp rope, strong flashlights, and more. I bought everything mentioned online, regardless of whether we would need it or not. Adam had the door replaced with a blast-resistant door similar to those found in bank vaults, and even the glass was switched to bulletproof. From the 23rd floor up to the 28th, every stairwell entrance had a steel door installed. Another door was installed outside the elevator. By 6 p.m., the supplies I had ordered earlier were gradually delivered. It took 7 or 8 trips with a 2-meter truck to get everything. This building had 26 floors, but according to the property management, only we lived above the 20th floor, so if anyone asked, we would just claim to be residents of the 20th floor. By the time we got everything home, it was midnight. I was completely exhausted when I went to bed, and although I thought I would have trouble sleeping, I fell asleep as soon as my head hit the pillow. Early in the morning, just as it was getting light, a sharp scream suddenly rang out from the neighborhood. I got out of bed and walked to the living room. Looking down from the balcony, a woman in pajamas, carrying trash, was knocked down by several frenzied zombies, and other zombies, attracted by the smell of blood, quickly joined in. My best friend, who had also come out, saw this scene and screamed in fright, falling to the floor, her face pale as death. Adam came out of the kitchen, still wearing the little bear apron I had bought, and his face turned pale at the sight. Although I had seen more brutal scenes in the past, this one was still tough to witness. We quietly ate the steamed buns Adam made for breakfast, the mood very somber. The buns were pre-packaged from the supermarket, just needing to be steamed before eating. We were staying at my best friend's house, and since my house across the street wasn't renovated, most of the supplies were stored there, including 7 freezers. While we still had electricity, we needed to eat the perishables in the fridge quickly, as the solar power might not support so many appliances once the power was out. Turning on the TV, every channel was broadcasting emergency notices about an unknown virus spreading, advising everyone to stock up on supplies and stay indoors. Cars in the neighborhood were sporadically leaving, probably in response to government advisories to stock up. Whenever a car left, the zombies roaming around would swarm it, being knocked aside by the speeding vehicle but quickly getting up to chase after it. The atmosphere in the house was tense, and after eating, my best friend and Adam went to call their parents, who had also stocked up on many supplies yesterday and were now safe at home. The supplies delivered last night were still piled up in the room, so we decided to take turns keeping watch while the others sorted and organized the supplies. This continued until the evening when a few cars finally returned. None of us had much appetite, we just ate some self-heating rice. From time to time, the piercing screams of zombies could be heard from downstairs. With that sound, I drifted off to sleep in a daze. Around midnight, a sudden burst of rapid ringing from my cell phone jolted me awake. It was Abraham calling. The apocalypse had just begun, and communications networks were still operational. I steadied myself and answered the call. "Liu, why is your building's hallway locked? Come downstairs and open the door for me," he said. Hearing his voice flooded me with a surge of resentment, reviving the agony I felt just before dying in my previous life. I took a deep breath to suppress my emotions and asked, "Haven't we already broken up? Why are you here?" Abraham spoke in a hushed tone. "Those were just words said in anger. How could you take them seriously? My mom and I have nothing to eat. The supermarket has been cleared out. Isn't your best friend a doctor? She must have known to stock up on food in advance. He must have seen the door we had installed in the hallway and guessed that I had food supplies." His voice tinged with excitement. "Liu, it was my mom's fault before I'll make her apologize to you. Please, just open the door and let us come up. Holding the phone, I looked out the window down in our building's hallway, which was clear of zombies. Most of them were gathered around a corner of the opposite building, seemingly tearing at something. Through the binoculars, I saw a figure being mauled by zombies, his face unrecognizable. I could only make out a gray t-shirt, the same shirt I had bought for Abraham's stepfather. They were still using the same method to divert the zombies, just like I had in my past life. At that moment, it was as if I was looking at myself. A wave of hatred shook me to my core. My hands clenched the phone so tightly that I could barely hear the voice coming from the other end, only a loud roaring in my ears. I picked up a flower pot from the window and threw it down. The shattering sound attracted the zombies, who swarmed over and quickly blocked the hallway. After that, I heard cursing through the phone. Open the door, you bitch. The zombies are coming. It was Abraham's mother's voice, screaming in agony. Lee, you bitch. Just you wait. I'll feed you to the zombies. I couldn't help but laugh in rage. I think you'll be fed to them first. After saying that, I hung up the phone and prepared to return to my room. Turning around, I saw my best friend and Adam standing in the living room watching me. The atmosphere was tense. After a moment of silence, I asked my best friend, "Do you think I'm too cruel, too terrifying?" She looked at me for a long while, then shook her head. "I know what kind of person you are. I don't think you're terrifying." She stepped forward and embraced me. "Something terrible must have happened for you to act this way towards them. Can you tell me about it?" As I looked into the trusting eyes of my best friend and Adam, my heartbeat gradually calmed, and the excruciating pain I felt slowly receded. I told them about my rebirth. After hearing my story, my best friend was so furious she swore loudly, then held me and sobbed uncontrollably. "You must have been so scared and in so much pain." Adam's eyes reddened, and without a word, he grabbed an axe and headed out. I quickly stopped him. "There are a lot of zombies in the building now. Don't go out. They will attract more zombies with their shouting. And he's been yelling so much that others will soon know we have supplies. I'll get rid of them first. You two stay inside." My best friend and I exchanged glances and said, "We'll go with you." To help out, Adam, armed with an axe, led the way as my best friend and I followed closely behind. Clutching our batons and flashlights, we cautiously opened the door to the stairwell and began descending floor by floor. By the time we reached the 23rd floor, we stood before the last door, too apprehensive to open it. Peering through the peephole, we saw a horde of zombies relentlessly slamming against the door of a western apartment on that floor. The door seemed on the verge of collapse but miraculously remained intact, as if something from inside was holding it shut. It appeared that the zombies had made their way inside the apartment. Just dealing with the zombies at the door was headache enough for them, and it seemed unlikely they would be able to cause us any trouble anytime soon. Adam double-checked the door and found it undamaged. However, the potential threat lingered. I knew these people all too well. If they were alive, they would certainly attempt to seize our supplies. The next morning, the eerie shrieks of zombies pierced the pre-dawn silence in the otherwise quiet neighborhood, sending chills through the air. The three of us sat in the living room, too afraid to turn on the lights, quietly observing the scene below through binoculars. The zombies that had flooded our building the previous night were now emerging into the street. However, they did not disperse but instead gathered below our building. Abraham and his group were surely still hiding somewhere inside, but for now, we couldn't spare any attention for them. In my previous life, by the third day of the apocalypse, the temperature had skyrocketed to 50 degrees Celsius. Many who had survived the zombies perished in the severe heat. This time, I was better prepared. I had several fans running since air conditioning consumed too much power. The electricity generated by solar panels was reserved for the several large freezers we relied on. True to my memories, the temperature began to rise from the third day of the apocalypse. Even at 7 p.m., the sun was still glaringly bright in the sky. The bodies of those killed by zombies began to emit a foul stench, causing dizziness and headaches to those who smelled it. My best friend insisted on keeping all doors and windows tightly shut and brewed a pot of herbal tea daily for us to drink. On the 6th day of the apocalypse, the power went out, and the network on our phones was lost. Gradually, flashlights began to flicker throughout the neighborhood as people clung to the hope of electricity being restored, but I knew the power was gone for good. By noon, the temperature had reached 45 degrees Celsius. By then, the zombies had vanished from the streets, seeking refuge in the shadows of the hallways and walls, occasionally emitting chilling shrieks. Over the past few days, we had consumed perishable food items and organized the rest based on their shelf life, eating only small amounts each day to conserve energy. It was too hot to eat much anyway. To save power, the three of us cleared out a small room to sleep on the floor, allowing us to use just one air conditioner. The neighborhood grew increasingly quiet, sometimes eerily so, especially at night. 40 days into the apocalypse, the temperature remained oppressively high, and the air was filled with a rotting stench. It was hard to tell whether it came from food or corpses. We had not opened the windows in a long time, keeping even the curtains tightly drawn. For lunch, we had cold noodles, a dish Adam had mastered. It was surprisingly well made and felt like a blessing in the extreme heat. In the afternoon, A sudden thunderclap rang out, followed by a torrential downpour that enveloped the city. Soon after, cries of surprise echoed through the neighborhood. I cautiously peeked through a small gap in the curtains and saw several survivors stretching containers out to catch rainwater. My best friend and Adam both breathed sighs of relief, murmuring how fortunate this was, but I alone knew that the crisis was far from over. The high temperatures accelerated the spoilage of food, further depleting our already scarce resources. In desperate times, people could forsake their morals and dignity for a morsel of food, capable of anything to satisfy their hunger. After the rain, far from cooling down, the weather only grew hotter. Every day, people would lean out of their windows, crying for help, some begging for food, others for medicine. There were also those who couldn't take it anymore and chose to end their lives. In the building opposite, someone jumped from the 18th floor only to be immediately surrounded by zombies upon hitting the ground. Over the following days, more people continued to jump. A sense of despair hung over the entire neighborhood. On the 50th day since the apocalypse began, a small squad of about a dozen people appeared at the foot of our residential building. Their purpose was clear: to search for food, armed with axes and machetes. They scavenged from building to building, each search yielding significant finds. However, their departures were followed by more people jumping from the buildings. At the rate they were moving, I estimated they would reach our building by noon. The three of us ate our self-heating rice without relish, calculating the odds of them breaking through our door. After eating, I kept watch while my best friend and Adam tinkered with a pile of alcohol, intending to make some weapons. The group piled the scavenged supplies in the middle of the courtyard, guarded by a few individuals. Boxes of grain and cooking oil, over 20 boxes of bottled water, and many boxes of compressed biscuits were stacked high. Their initial success boosted their confidence, and they opened several bottles of water, drinking and splashing around, drawing many curious eyes from the windows. Suddenly, the burly leader pulled a man from behind and threw him to the ground. The man's clothes were torn into rags, hanging off him pathetically. As he looked up, the burly leader punched him, knocking his glasses off. Clearly highly myopic, the man began flailing his arms, desperately searching for his glasses on the ground. A man with sly-looking eyes grabbed the bespectacled man by the hair on his forehead and jerked his head back, forcing him to face everyone. The surrounding crowd burst into laughter at his miserable state. Suddenly, my friend exclaimed. The director, she explained that the man with the glasses was the head of the infectious diseases department at their hospital, who had abruptly resigned just before the apocalypse. It now seemed he had been forewarned. No wonder he had survived this long and had stored so much food. It took several trips for a few men to clear out his apartment, and the amassed goods looked quite impressive. The burly man took a megaphone passed to him by an underling and, without concern for attracting zombies, began to shout across the neighborhood, "Listen up, everyone. Anyone who joins us will get their share of the food here. Those who volunteer their supplies can join us too. If you don't come forward, and we find you, this will be your fate." With that, he yanked the director forward and kicked him in the stomach. The director, a small man compared to the towering leader, was sent flying into a flower bed, passing out without even making a sound. The group laughed wildly at the sight. "If your home has no food but you know where to find some, share that information, and I will ensure you get a share of the food," continued the leader. With this call, many who had initially hesitated began to open their doors and started moving their belongings downstairs. Even a newlywed couple from the building across, who I thought weren't home since I hadn't seen their windows open since the apocalypse began, shouted from their window, "We have food." 4 men approached their building, and soon several people were seen entering the couple's apartment. They didn't take long to come back down, carrying only a few boxes of water. The group downstairs seemed displeased by the small haul, but since they needed to motivate others, they didn't make a fuss and let the couple put down their supplies before handing each of them a loaf of bread. The couple was visibly relieved. Clutching the bread, he began to eat voraciously. It had been over a month since the apocalypse began, and the intense heat had left many without food. Seeing that there was an opportunity to exchange goods for food, people started emerging from their homes. The crowd in the open space below our apartment building grew larger. I had thought our complex was nearly deserted, but it turned out there were still hundreds of families around. I was focusing through my binoculars when suddenly, from somewhere in our building, a window made a crackling, sizzling sound. Just as I was about to look out, a bad premonition struck me. Then a familiar voice came from below. "There are people here. There's a lot of food upstairs." It was Abraham. He was still alive. Soon, many people started heading towards our building, although there were over a dozen doors blocking their way at the ground floor, making it nearly impossible for them to get up. We weren't taking any chances. We dug out the sticks and batons we had bought earlier. Adam and I cautiously went down a few floors to check things out. Soon, hearing laughter echoing through the hallway, a rough male voice said, "This family has so many doors. They must have a lot of food. Let's break this door down, and we won't have to worry about food anymore." Using our binoculars, we looked down the hallway through the windows. The man with a full beard seemed pleased with the information Abraham provided and casually tossed a moldy piece of bread onto the floor. Abraham hurriedly knelt to pick it up and stuffed it into his mouth without a second thought, causing the others to burst out laughing. However, their laughter didn't last long as they realized all the doors were made of solid steel. After half an hour of smashing and prying with no success, Adam told me to go back while we took turns keeping watch. Back upstairs, my best friend had prepared a meal with braised pork and a side of stir-fried vegetables. Despite the zombies outside and the impending threat, the sight of this hearty meal momentarily took our minds off our worries. The pork was fatty but not greasy, tender and bouncy, and the vegetables, grown on our rooftop, were absolutely free of pollutants. After dinner, my friend brought out a watermelon we had stored before the apocalypse, kept chilled in the fridge. In such hot weather, the cool watermelon was a real treat. Watching Abraham wolfing down the moldy bread below, and then looking at the sweet, juicy watermelon in my hand, made the fruit taste even sweeter. After eating our fill, we continued to watch the scene below. The group struggled with the doors to no avail. Growing increasingly frustrated, the leader kicked Abraham in the chest, causing him to crash into a door behind him, which fell down immediately, releasing a foul odor. A few men walked in hesitantly and soon came out carrying a bucket covered with a woman's coat. When they opened it, it contained smelly pieces of meat and some bones. My friend vomited at the sight, and once she recovered, she said in a heavy voice, "Those are human bones." I had not seen Abraham's mother around and thought she had been ill. It was monstrous. I felt nauseous too. The men probably realized what kind of meat it was, and the bearded leader kicked Abraham in the chest again, shouting, "You even ate your own mother's flesh. Are you still human?" The rest, already frustrated from not being able to open the doors and now disgusted, started beating Abraham until he was barely breathing. I didn't care to watch anymore. He had brought this upon himself. That evening, I continued to watch the group with my binoculars. My friend and Adam took some meat from the fridge, ground it up, and attached it to a drone, which they remotely controlled to fly out, hoping to attract zombies with the meat. After setting this up, we smashed some pig's blood and scattered it in the hallway, then opened all the windows there, let those flavors waft away. In the afternoon, the corridors started to resonate with the jarring sound of an electric saw. Somehow, a group of people had gotten hold of a saw and began cutting through the doors in the corridor. They only managed to make a small slit after half a day's effort, but the noise they created had already attracted some zombies. Unfazed, they simply sent a few people to clear the zombies away. Soon, a rumbling noise came from outside the compound, sounding like trucks passing by or the muffled thunder before rain. Shortly after, the protective walls of the compound were struck, and within minutes, a large horde of zombies flooded in. The cries and screams from downstairs mixed with the cursing of the group. They might have held off the zombies for a while, but given their weakened state from barely surviving on minimal food, fighting the zombies was impossible. In less than 15 minutes, no living person could be seen. Even Abraham, who had fainted on the ground, was overwhelmed by zombies. The only sound left in the hallway was the frenzied swallowing of the zombies. When the zombies finally dispersed, all that was left on the ground were scraps of clothing and bloodstains. We carried several buckets of water and poured them down the stairs. The blood washed away, and the zombies followed it down. After a few buckets, the corridor was clear. This made the compound even quieter. For months, there was no sound at all. Sometimes, I even doubted that only the three of us were left. We breathed a sigh of relief. In this apocalypse, those who had lost their morals and humanity were actually more terrifying than the zombies. Even after winter began, the weather stayed unusually warm, maintaining temperatures in the 20s. Although it was comfortable, the abnormal high temperatures before warned us that worse weather was to come. Taking advantage of the good weather, we sowed fast-growing vegetables on our rooftop garden, dried them after harvesting, and stored them in bags. Perishables like tomatoes were cooked down into sauce for storage. Adam checked all the water and electricity supplies in the house, especially the wires and pipes connected to the solar panels and the water tank. As long as these were functioning, we could keep surviving here. The temperature didn't drop and it didn't rain once till the new year, but fortunately, our water reservoir was large and we had plenty of bottled water at home. We used it sparingly, and it was enough. Soon, it was the new year, the most desolate one yet. We cut out paper fortunes to decorate the house, got up early to make dumplings and a few dishes, and even fished out a pondfish to make braised carp for our New Year's Eve dinner. After dinner, we watched recorded New Year's Eve galas from previous years on TV. The sounds from the TV dispelled the loneliness of the moment. In the past, we used to criticize the gala for being dull, with people just standing on stage singing, but watching those programs now brought tears to our eyes. Those were actually the best days. A year and 3 months into the apocalypse, the temperature suddenly dropped. It was still in the 20s the day before, but overnight it plummeted below zero and heavy snow began to fall. Within a few hours, thick snow had accumulated everywhere. Excited, the three of us ran to the rooftop to collect snow. Once the snow melted, It would secure our water supply. The snow continued for several days, and the temperature kept dropping. We had harvested all the vegetables from the rooftop and didn't plan to plant more since even indoor temperatures were very low. The snowfall reduced the efficiency of our solar power, and with the limited electricity, we plugged in only one electric blanket. The three of us sat on the bed, wrapped in blankets, playing cards. Since the electricity was insufficient and the temperature low enough, we turned off all the refrigerators. Following an online guide, we built a large ice chest on the rooftop using the snow. We've frozen all the chicken, duck, fish, and meat. At noon, we made a hot pot with the sun-dried vegetables and tomato sauce prepared earlier, which left us all sweating profusely as we ate. Although more than a year has passed, we still have plenty of supplies. The vegetables we grow on the rooftop are almost enough to sustain us. The only significant consumption is of flour and rice. We still have plenty of meat and dried goods left, enough to occasionally enjoy a hearty hot pot to satisfy our cravings. Aside from the boredom of not being able to go out, life is quite comfortable. The third year of the apocalypse, the temperature has stabilized around 0 degrees, and the number of zombies moving around in the community has decreased. With the air becoming fresher and the previously nauseating smell slowly fading, our food supply is mostly self-sufficient. Although the temperature is quite low, the midday sun is still strong, and we have enough electricity. We built a greenhouse on the rooftop, and the vegetables we grow there are enough to keep us fed without worry. The fourth year of the apocalypse, the community's roads have been completely overgrown with weeds, and it's been ages since I've seen anyone around. Even zombies are rare. Grass has even started growing in the cracks of the rocks on the road, reaching up to 1 meter high and gradually covering some of the paths. Once I even saw a rabbit hiding in there. We've been discussing how to use this time to keep ourselves physically fit, as staying indoors for a long time can weaken our immune system. Suddenly, we heard several gunshots in the distance and immediately became alert. The gunshots were close by, seemingly from someone shooting. Looking in the direction of the sounds, we saw two figures speeding in a car from a small path. From this distance, it was hard to see who they were, but they quickly dealt with a few zombies in front of the opposite building and rushed inside. Not long after, they emerged, guarding a woman and a child on each side. I thought we were the only ones left in the community after 3 years. How had these people survived, even avoiding the search party from 2 years ago? The two people left the community with the woman and child without lingering, seemingly there to pick them up. It seems that a leader's family members also lived in this community, as mentioned by the salesperson when buying the house. It appears they were the ones picked up. This suggests that maybe the government hasn't completely collapsed, and there's still hope. The car's engine was loud, and soon a large group of zombies surrounded us from all directions. Perhaps due to a long time without food, the zombies were noticeably slower than when the apocalypse first began, and the people in the car quickly drove away. 2 months later, a drone playing a broadcast flew into the community. The zombie virus vaccine has been developed and is being distributed to communities in phases. Please get vaccinated and wait a while longer, as the government is clearing the zombies from all areas. We will soon restore order. The drone circled the community a few times, dropped a few packages, and then slowly flew away, its sound fading into the distance. We went down to get the vaccines and were about to leave when we suddenly saw about a dozen more people coming out. It turns out that besides us, there were other survivors in our community. This realization truly lifted our spirits. 2 months after getting vaccinated, the government announced that all zombies had been thoroughly eradicated. The moment we stepped out of the door, we cried tears of joy. Once communication was restored, we immediately contacted our best friend's parents. They had been living self-sufficiently in the countryside and were doing very well. For us, this disaster truly ended with that news.